Chapter 155. After leaving the Divine Weapons Manor for dozens of miles, and arriving at a desolate valley, young Dingtian felt that he was completely safe. His body went limp as he fell to the ground, and couldn't get up anymore. He had truly lost half of his soul, and he had just returned from the edge of hell. Lying on the ground, young Dingtian breathed with all his might as he felt the preciousness of life. He had finally escaped from the fatal danger, and obtained the mystic fire devil hammer. After lying on the ground for more than 10 minutes, young Dingtian tried to get up, but realized that his body didn't have any strength. "You are truly promising. You are actually scared to such a state," Dugu Fengwu sneered. Hearing this, young Dingtian was instantly infuriated. "Such a dangerous situation was caused by a demon woman like you, and you still have the face to make sarcastic remarks." Thinking about Dugu Fengwu's previous actions, young Dingtian gnashed his teeth with hatred. Immediately after, young Dingtian thought about how Dugu Fengwu didn't have any trace of mystic qi, and was completely powerless. He was instantly delighted as he thought to himself, "The heavens have blessed me and allowed me to successfully obtain the mystic fire devil hammer, and escape from this demon woman's evil clutches." However, he had to be fast and escape as far as possible before this demon woman recovered. He had to use his fastest speed to forge the soul sword at the Fire Cloud Devil Cave. Time was running out as there were only 3 days before the 9th Great Earth Fire would bloom in the Fire Cloud Devil Cave. It would take almost 3 days to reach the Fire Cloud Devil Cave, because it was on a lone island in the sea, and he had to take a boat. Young Dingtian suddenly crawled up from the ground and looked at Dugu Fengwu. "Demon woman, you also have a day like this." Dugu Fengwu looked at young Dingtian and asked coldly, "Are you going to kill me or torture me first?" "Kill you? I am not that savage, but it is not that simple for me to let you go," young Dingtian said. After taking off his outer robe and mask, young Dingtian instantly regained his original appearance. After everything was done, young Dingtian took out an elixir and stuffed it into Dugu Fengwu's mouth. "What elixir did you feed me?" Dugu Fengwu asked in shock. "I'll just make you sleep for a few days. By the time you wake up, I'll have already left the Fiery Cloud Devil Cave. My fledgling sword will have already been forged and escaped. You won't be able to find it anymore," young Dingtian said. After being forced to consume the elixir, Dugu Fengwu's vision blurred as the medicinal effects took effect. Immediately after, young Dingtian carried Dugu Fengwu and found a secluded place to hide her. Even though there was no one here, it was still safer to hide her in a secluded place. "Young Dingtian, when I wake up and recover, I will definitely dismember you into pieces." Dugu Fengwu, who was already drowsy, gritted her teeth and said, "Let's talk about it when the time comes." Young Dingtian laughed loudly. Then he recalled all the hateful things about the witch from before. If he didn't take revenge now, when would he? "Pa!" Young Dingtian slapped the back of her head, as though he was slapping a disobedient child. In an instant, the witch Dugu Fengwu's drowsiness temporarily faded away. She was so ashamed that she wanted to die. "Young Dingtian, you dare?" The enraged Dugu Fengwu was so angry that her voice changed. "Why wouldn't I dare?" After finding a natural cave, young Dingtian let Dugu Fengwu in. After that, young Dingtian pinched Dugu Fengwu's beautiful and proud face, and made all sorts of strange faces. "Aren't you very proud? You usually don't look people in the eye. Now, I'll make you hang your eyes." After that, young Dingtian lifted her eyelids. Following that, he twisted her straight and jade-like nose everywhere. After that, he pinched her mouth and made all sorts of strange shapes. Finally, he rubbed her beautiful face, and made it look like a pig's face, and then a dog's face. Most importantly, while young Dingtian was doing it, he took out a mirror, and let Dugu Fengwu see it herself. "Which this is for repaying kindness with ingratitude. Which this is for torturing me over and over again. Which this is for forcing me to impersonate a hidden sect disciple." Dugu Fengwu wasn't just the princess of the Temple of Blood. She was also a princess in the evil ways. When had she ever been humiliated like this? She was so angry that she was about to explode. She was so embarrassed that she was about to go crazy. She trembled and said, "Young Dingtian, remember this. I will definitely dismember you into pieces." dismember you into pieces. Anyway, your hatred towards me is already blood red. So what if it's higher? I might as well take this opportunity to vent my anger. Yang Dingtian laughed and said. He then flipped her body over and gave her another round of beatings. This is for repaying kindness with ingratitude. This is for threatening me. This is for hitting me. Dugafengwu said coldly. Kill me, Yang Dingtian. You can't take it anymore? Yang Dingtian sneered and flipped her over. He pinched her chin and said, Come, little last Dugu, smile for this master. Yang Dingtian, remember this. Everything that you have done to me today, you will return it 10 times, 100 times. Dugafengwu said while trembling. Oh, immediately after, Yang Dingtian leaned forward and smiled at her. If I kiss you, will you also return it 10 times over? Then I will welcome you with open arms. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian said seriously, I am someone with a wife, and I love her very much. Therefore, I will not kiss you. Which you are so evil that you are oozing pus. Who knows if there will be pus and ulcers at the corner of my mouth after touching you. Dugafengwu's beautiful eyes were red as she yelled out with a trembling voice. I will definitely kill you, Yang Dingtian. I will definitely. Since I have already thoroughly offended you, I will have my fill today. This master is going to play with you properly today. Yang Dingtian patted Dugafengwu's face and pinched her little mouth, nose, and made all sorts of funny faces. He would pull her nose, pinch her little mouth, and make her look like a prostitute. He would then twist her face into a ball. In short, he would do it in any ugly way. At the start, Dugafengwu was still scolding, but she eventually stopped and just stared coldly at Yang Dingtian. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian felt that his palm was wet. He lowered his head and saw that his palm was actually full of blood. Dugafengwu had actually bitten her lips to the point of bleeding, and the blood flowed onto Yang Dingtian's hand. It was obvious that she was truly infuriated to the extreme. Her absolutely beautiful face was completely pale, and without a trace of blood. Perhaps this was the most humiliating moment in her life. In fact, her beautiful eyes were faintly glistening with tears, and a teardrop was about to roll down. Yang Dingtian was startled and stopped all his mischievous actions. After a moment of embarrassment, Yang Dingtian said, It is all your fault. You have bullied me too ruthlessly for the past few days. All right, we are even now. Dugafengwu didn't make a sound, and was still clenching her jade teeth, with blood flowing out from the corner of her mouth. That's right. When she heard that she was defiled by Yang Dingtian, she was furious, but she wasn't sad. When she lost all her mystic chi, she wasn't sad. Right now, Yang Dingtian was only teasing her, but her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. Being teased by Yang Dingtian was an absolute humiliation, and he might as well just kill her. She was an absolute expert, the future leader of the evil ways, and a true demoness. She couldn't endure such humiliation. It is because I survived a calamity, and my emotions are a little excited. That is why I did all these things to you. Yang Dingtian explained. Dugafengwu still didn't make a sound. Then I will take my leave. You will wake up after sleeping here for a few days. Furthermore, I have placed a special elixir on your body, and those wild beasts and poisonous bugs won't dare to come near you. Yang Dingtian said. Then I will take my leave. Goodbye. Oh no, I mean never. Immediately after, Yang Dingtian turned and walked out. Yang Dingtian. Suddenly Dugafengwu, who was behind him, said, You saw my tears. You saw my weak side. This is 100 times more serious than seeing my body. So, the next time I see you, I will definitely kill you. If you are smart, kill me now. Her voice was very calm, but it was filled with boundless determination. Yang Dingtian knew that she was speaking the truth. Therefore, the smartest thing to do was to kill her. After looking at Dugafengwu for a long time, Yang Dingtian said, Sorry, I can't do it. Immediately after, he turned and left. After leaving Dugafengwu's vision, Yang Dingtian quickly took out an ordinary mask from his spatial ring and put it on. Instantly, Yang Dingtian changed into another person. Immediately after, he took out another set of clothes and put them on. Finally, he placed the mystic fire devil hammer and the hidden sex artifact sword into his spatial ring. This time, no one would be able to recognize that Yang Dingtian was that nameless who pretended to be a hidden sect's disciple. After he left, Dugafengwu's beautiful eyes fell into a daze. It was obvious that the elixir had started to take effect, and she was about to faint completely. However, just as she was about to close her eyes completely, her delicate body suddenly trembled. An incomparably powerful energy instantly spread throughout her body. Her beautiful eyes instantly turned from dazed to incomparably cold, shooting out an incomparably cold gaze. Dugafengwu actually recovered her mystic qi before she fainted completely. Instantly, she looked at the direction where Yang Dingtian left, and her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. She immediately picked up her sharp sword and was about to chase after Yang Dingtian and chop him into pieces. However, she quickly gave up on this action. Her beautiful face revealed an angry and cold smile. Yang Dingtian, I will let you live for a few more days. I will wait for you at the entrance of the Fire Cloud Devil Cave. At that time, you will have to take out the fire immunity chilling pearl, right? At that time, I will let you have a taste of sorrow after extreme joy. Yang Dingtian, you actually dare to let me suffer such humiliation. After obtaining the fire immunity chilling pearl, I will definitely let you suffer a fate worse than death. Pa! In an instant, Dugafengwu's sharp sword slashed at the void. In an instant, all the trees and giant rocks in front of her were turned into fine powder. Dugafengwu's delicate body burst out with soaring killing intent and fury. Afterward, Dugafengwu's delicate body suddenly rose from the ground. Two illusory energy wings appeared on her back, and she soared into the sky. She flew towards the direction of the Fire Cloud Devil Cave from another direction. That's right, this demonic woman was faking it. Because she couldn't force Yang Dingtian to take out the fire immunity chilling pearl. She used an underhanded method. However, the price she had to pay was too high. 3 days later, Yang Dingtian crossed 1,000 miles of sea and arrived at a giant volcanic island. He pushed the boat to the beach and looked at the giant volcano in the distance. The volcano crater at the top of the mountain was the entrance to the Fire Cloud Devil Cave. Fire Cloud Devil Cave, I am finally here. Yang Dingtian sighed. The Fire Cloud Devil Cave was located on an island called the West Arrival Island. This island was considered the west of the Primal Chaos continent. This island was very famous because it had the largest active volcano in the entire northwest continent. It was at least 10,000 meters tall. According to his master Dongfang Minmi, this volcano had been erupting for 100 years, and it would erupt once every 10 years. Every time it erupted, it would shake the heavens and the earth. The fiery red magma could spurt out tens of thousands of meters high. Even from hundreds of miles away, one could see the soaring flames when it erupted. A few hundred years ago, the entire West Arrival Island was just a very small island. Every time it erupted, the entire island would become larger. In fact, the entire west-facing island was formed by the accumulation of magma and volcanic ash from this volcano. Today, the West Arrival Island was already a large island of thousands of square miles. 100 years ago, the volcano that erupted once every 10 years stopped erupting, as if it had entered a deep sleep. At that time, some people were surprised, but they didn't take it seriously. This was because the volcanoes in this world were unpredictable. They would suddenly erupt and suddenly fall silent. However, very few people knew that this volcano still erupted once every 10 years. It was just that the previous earth-shattering eruption had changed to the current eruption of supreme great earth fire every 10 years. The difference in momentum could be said to be heaven and earth. However, there was no difference in the terrifying energy produced when the two happened. The beach was about 100 miles away from the volcano. There was a dense forest on the way, and there was absolutely no road. Yang Dingtian quickly and carefully passed through the dense forest and walked towards the direction of the Fire Cloud Devil Cave. Looking at the approaching volcano, Yang Dingtian's heart was getting more and more excited. The long journey of nearly 10,000 miles was to forge the Sword Soul, and now, his wish was finally going to be fulfilled. Fire Cloud Devil Cave. I am coming, Supreme Great Earth Fire. I am coming, and I am coming for the Sword Soul. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but be excited. Demoness Dugu, I am sorry. I have already enjoyed the Supreme Great Earth Fire, that only appears once every 10 years. You can continue to sleep. At the peak of the volcano, at the entrance of the Fire Cloud Devil Cave, the incomparably beautiful Dugu Fengwu sat cross-legged at the peak of the mountain. She looked at the excited young Dingtian from afar, and revealed a cold smile. Young Dingtian, you will soon taste the taste of sorrow after extreme joy. Soon, I will let you taste the taste of regret. Chapter 156. Along the way, young Dingtian did not run into any danger. After an hour, young Dingtian had successfully traversed dozens of miles of dense forest. Not only did he not run into any humans, but he also did not run into any powerful beasts. In fact, it was because the Heaven Flame Phoenix in the demonic fire cave was too powerful. The entire West Arrival Island was its territory. Therefore, powerful beasts did not dare to set foot in this place. When he reached the foot of the volcano, young Dingtian did not even feel the heat. Looking up, the 10,000-meter-tall volcano towered into the clouds, majestic and imposing. The entire volcano was bare, and the surface was covered with cooled magma. At this time, it was as hard as a rock, and it still retained the flowing state before it melted. Entering the demonic fire cave was easy. All he had to do was climb to the top of the volcano and jump in through the vent. Young Dingtian took a deep breath and climbed towards the top of the volcano's crater step by step. Although the volcano was steep and slippery, young Dingtian was still climbing at a fast pace. After half an hour, he was already halfway to the top. Rumble! Suddenly, the entire volcano trembled. Young Dingtian almost lost his balance. Then, a loud noise came from inside the volcano. The noise came from the top of the volcano and pierced through the clouds. It grew louder and louder, louder and louder. At first, young Dingtian could still bear it, but soon he was squatting on the ground in pain. He felt like his eardrums were about to burst and his veins were about to burst. The Heaven Flame Phoenix had discovered young Dingtian's presence. It was giving him a strong warning, warning him not to trespass on its territory. Of course, because young Dingtian was too weak, the Heaven Flame Phoenix only issued a warning. It didn't fly out to kill young Dingtian, because it didn't want to. The Heaven Flame Phoenix's cries lasted for nearly 10 minutes. Young Dingtian's ears were bleeding, and his skin was bleeding profusely. Finally, the Heaven Flame Phoenix stopped crying. Young Dingtian let out a long sigh of relief and stood up. He almost couldn't hold on any longer. The Heaven Flame Phoenix was too powerful. Fortunately, young Dingtian has 9 young profound veins. If it was someone else, even a martial profound expert, they would have died under the cry of this heavenly flame phoenix. To be honest, even a great grandmaster level expert wouldn't want to provoke this kind of lord level demonic beast that had cultivated for 1,000 years. Taking a deep breath, young Dingtian continued to climb. Then he realized that the entire volcano had started to turn red. The magma stone, which had already cooled down, began to melt again. This was really going to kill him. Feeling the burning sensation beneath his feet, young Dingtian exclaimed in his heart. It was another warning from the Heaven Flame Phoenix. The bottom half of the volcano was made of cold rock. As for the upper half, it gradually began to burn red and melt. If young Dingtian did not retreat, the mountain would completely melt and turn into fiery red lava. At that time, not only would young Dingtian not be able to climb the mountain, he would also be burned alive. Of course, he could keep the fire immunity chilling pearl in his mouth. However, the fire immunity chilling pearl's energy was limited. If he used it now, how would he be able to defend himself against the Heaven Flame Phoenix's attack? Screw it! Young Dingtian shouted. Holding his breath, he ran as fast as he could. He ran as fast as he could, faster and faster. The magma stone beneath his feet was getting redder and redder. When young Dingtian was 3,000 meters away from the peak, the magma stone beneath his feet had turned completely red. The temperature had reached over 1,000 degrees. Young Dingtian's boots had been completely burned away. They had been replaced by a pair of frost iron boots. However, when he was 2,000 meters away from the top of the mountain, the cold iron boots on his feet had already started to burn red. Young Dingtian only felt that his feet were getting more and more painful and hot. In the end, it was as if they were completely burnt. when he was 1,500 meters away from the peak. The cold iron boots on Yang Dingtian's feet had already turned red from the heat. The fire-resistant sheath on Yang Dingtian's feet had also gradually burned through. Soon it would reach Yang Dingtian's feet. The fire immunity chilling gloves were made of fire immunity silk. Yang Dingtian had spent over 10,000 gold coins to buy them. Now they were about to lose their effect. Once they reached Yang Dingtian's feet, they would be burned away instantly. Yang Dingtian had the 9 Yang meridians. They were very powerful. But that was only when it came to defending against Xianqi attacks. When it came to being burned by fire, it was the same as when it came to ordinary people. Furthermore, Yang Dingtian's clothes were about to catch fire. The wig on his head had also started to curl up and was about to be burnt. He was sweating all over. His lips were dry and cracked. His throat was as dry as a desert. If this went on, his life would be in danger. Yang Dingtian hurriedly consumed an elixir and made use of the remaining time to desperately run upwards. After running for less than 300 meters, he suddenly began to retreat, because the rocks under his feet had completely melted and turned into magma, flowing down continuously. At this time, the temperature under his feet had reached an astonishing 4,000 to 5,000 degrees. The fire immunity chilling gloves under his feet were about to be burned through. At this time, Yang Dingtian was unable to advance or retreat. Did he really have to use the fire immunity chilling pearl, or be burned to death here? The moment the fire immunity chilling gloves on his feet were about to melt, Yang Dingtian's brain suddenly moved. He tapped his feet and jumped into the air. Then, he quickly took out the Night Owl greatsword from his spatial ring and inserted it into the mountain. Then his feet landed on the sword hilt. He finally picked up his feet. If he was a second later, his feet would have been completely burned. Yang Dingtian let out a long sigh of relief. This Night Owl greatsword was partly made of Night Owl's claws, partly made of Xian ice-cold iron, and partly made of bloody black gold. These 3 materials, no matter which one it was, could not be melted by the magma under his feet. But trouble came again. At this time, the magma was continuously flowing down. Yang Dingtian's life was temporarily saved, but he could not take a single step forward. Instead, he kept sliding down. The magma was getting deeper and deeper. Sooner or later, it would drown the Night Owl greatsword and burn Yang Dingtian alive again. At this time, he was more than 1,000 meters away from the top of the mountain. He could almost see the entrance of the Fire Cloud Devil Cave. He had to think of a way to reach the top of the mountain as quickly as possible. And Yang Dingtian discovered that the top of the mountain was pitch black, and there was no magma. Unfortunately, he did not have 2 Night Owl greatswords. Otherwise, he could climb up on stilts. But as the magma got deeper and deeper, even 2 Night Owl greatswords would be useless. Got it. Yang Dingtian quickly thought of another way. Ningning had put countless treasures and elixirs in his spatial ring. One of them was the condensation pearl. The condensation pearl condensed a large amount of water into a small elixir. A condensation pearl with a diameter of 3 centimeters contained a few hundred kilograms of water. As long as the condensation pearl was thrown into the magma, it would instantly explode. The few hundred kilograms of water would instantly turn into steam. This would generate a powerful force that would forcefully eject the items on the steam far away. The steam-powered catapults of aircraft carriers from the Earth era used this principle. Of course, the steam explosion would be very powerful, and the temperature would be very high. However, Yang Dingtian's entire body was protected. Moreover, with his current physical strength, he should be able to withstand the damage from the steam. Thus, Yang Dingtian took out a condensation pearl and smashed it under his feet. Boom! A loud sound was heard. Just as Yang Dingtian imagined, the condensation pearl exploded the moment it came into contact with the magma. Countless amounts of steam burst out and directly blew Yang Dingtian a few hundred meters away. Immediately after, before it landed on the ground, Yang Dingtian threw out another congealed water pearl. Bang! The steam from the explosion blew him a few hundred meters away. Bang! The 4th condensation pearl exploded. Yang Dingtian, with the Night Owl greatsword between his legs, was launched a few hundred meters away. The top of the volcano was within reach. Bang! Yang Dingtian landed on the top of the volcano. I'm finally here. Yang Dingtian almost couldn't help but shout. It wasn't easy. If it wasn't for Ningming's congealing pearl, he would have been burned to death in the magma, or had to use the fire immunity chilling pearl in advance. Then the more dangerous game began. He jumped into the volcano and entered the fiery cloud cave. The fiery cloud cave was 10,000 meters underground. That's right. Yang Dingtian was 10,000 meters above ground. The fiery cloud cave was 10,000 meters below ground. Yang Dingtian had to fall 20,000 meters to reach the fiery cloud cave. Along the way, he would have to face the Heaven Flame Phoenix's direct attack. Half of the volcano had melted into magma. That was the Heaven Flame Phoenix's indirect attack. How powerful would its direct attack be? Not even a master-level expert could withstand its attack. At this moment, the fire immunity chilling pearl was on full display. Yang Dingtian was about to take out the fire immunity chilling pearl from his interspatial ring when he felt a chill run down his spine. The hair on his neck stood up again. It can't be right? You're haunting me, Yang Dingtian said in pain. Then he slowly turned around. A familiar and hateful figure was standing behind Yang Dingtian. It was the beautiful Dugu Fengwu. She was still wearing Third Lady Gongsuan's clothes, but her face was now Dugu Fengwu's. Her face was even more beautiful than Third Lady Gongsuan's. Thinking about what he had done to Dugu Fengwu, Yang Dingtian's scalp went numb. Cold sweat broke out on his back. Was he looking for death? Continue. I want to see where you got the fire immunity chilling pearl from. Dugu Fengwu said coldly. Yang Dingtian looked at the sky. After a while he asked, when did you get here? Aren't you supposed to be unconscious? I have been here for more than a day. When I saw you on the island, I immediately went to the volcano. I have been waiting for you for a few hours now. Dugu Fengwu said. As for why I am not unconscious, Dugu Fengwu's face instantly turned cold. She said slowly, after you left that day, I had already recovered my mystic chi. At that time, I wanted to kill you with a palm strike. But if I killed you, I would not be able to get the fire immunity chilling pearl. Therefore I endured it. You had to die, but you had to take out the fire immunity chilling pearl before dying. Therefore, I played hard to get and pretended to be drugged by your elixir. I rushed here in advance to wait for you. Today, you are going to take out the fire immunity chilling pearl, right? Don't tell me that the fire immunity chilling pearl is not on you. Demon woman is indeed a demon woman. She is indeed incredible. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but sneer. That's right. The fire immunity chilling pearl is on me. But you want me to hand it over? Dream on. Dugu Fengwu sneered and said. There is only a little more than 2 hours before the peak great earth fire blooms. I will wait with you. If you don't take out the fire immunity chilling pearl, you can forget about forging a soul sword. If you don't forge a soul sword, you will not be able to kill Shimanju and take back your Cloud Heaven City. If I take out the fire immunity chilling pearl, I will die. Do you think I am so stupid? Yang Dingtian sneered. Since the fire immunity chilling pearl is on you, I will just cut you into 8 pieces and look for it, Dugu Fengwu said. Please. Yang Dingtian immediately opened his arms and said, please do it. If you can find the fire immunity chilling pearl on me, I will be your grandson. If you don't cut me into 8 pieces, you will be my grandson. Oh no, my granddaughter. Dugu Fengwu's eyes turned cold. A killing aura flashed by and scanned Yang Dingtian from head to toe. Indeed, she couldn't find any trace of the fire immunity chilling pearl. The fire immunity chilling pearl was an absolute treasure of heaven and earth, and it would definitely emit its aura. Dugu Fengwu really couldn't understand. The fire immunity chilling pearl was obviously on Yang Dingtian, but she couldn't find it. She really didn't know why. Earlier, due to the distance and angle, she didn't see Yang Dingtian taking out something from his spatial ring. Alright, you win, Yang Dingtian, Dugu Fengwu said. As long as you hand over the fire immunity chilling pearl, I swear I will never kill you. Not only will I let you go, but I will also help you kill Shimanju and take back Cloud Heaven City. How about it? No need, Yang Dingtian said resolutely. I will kill Shimanju myself. I will take back Cloud Heaven City myself. Demon woman, You have been dealing with me for so long. Don't you understand my character? For a moment, Dugu Fengwu's breathing became rough. She was really holding it in. She really wanted to chop young Dingtian into pieces. She had never been so angry before. In just a few days, young Dingtian had made her suffer more than what she had suffered in the past 20 years. Alright, then we will wait here and see who can last longer. Anyway, there is only 2 hours before the peak great earth fire blooms, Dugu Fengwu said. Once the 2 hours are up, there is no use for me to keep you alive. Even if you hand over the fire immunity chilling pearl, I will still kill you. After speaking, Dugu Fengwu sat down cross-legged and closed her eyes to regulate her breathing. However, her aura was tightly locked onto young Dingtian. Young Dingtian also sat down cross-legged. Anyway, he couldn't do anything now. As long as he moved a little, the demon woman would lock all his movements. Anyway, it was a competition of patience. Young Dingtian was waiting for an opportunity to appear. Time elapsed bit by bit. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, half an hour. An hour had passed. There was less than an hour before the peak great earth fire blooms. Young Dingtian and Dugu Fengwu were still sitting cross-legged on the ground without moving. It was a competition of patience. Another half an hour had passed. There was less than half an hour before the peak great earth fire blooms. Time was of the essence. The fire cloud devil cave was very huge, and there was only a small stock of peak great earth fire. It would take a lot of time to find it. Another period of time had passed. At this moment, Dugu Fengwu suddenly opened her eyes. She really couldn't hold it in anymore. Young Dingtian, your temper is really bad and stubborn. Dugu Fengwu sneered and said, very well, I will throw you down. I don't believe you won't hand over the fire immunity chilling pearl. After speaking, Dugu Fengwu grabbed young Dingtian by the back of his neck and threw him down the volcano entrance. Chapter 157. Dugu Fengwu grabbed young Dingtian by the back of his neck and threw him down the volcano. Young Dingtian was falling rapidly. As long as he entered the volcano, the heaven flame phoenix would attack him. As long as young Dingtian took out the fire immunity chilling pearl, Dugu Fengwu would be able to snatch it from him, even if they were a few hundred meters apart. Therefore, after throwing young Dingtian down, the demon woman Dugu Fengwu's beautiful eyes stared at young Dingtian. As soon as the fire immunity chilling pearl appeared, she would circulate her mystic qi and suck the pearl into her hand. However, Dugu Fengwu was disappointed. Young Dingtian was falling rapidly. Dozens of meters, hundreds of meters, almost 1,000 meters. Young Dingtian still didn't take out the fire immunity chilling pearl. If the heaven flame phoenix attacked, young Dingtian would definitely die. However, he would rather be killed by the heaven flame phoenix than let Dugu Fengwu take away the fire immunity chilling pearl. Young Dingtian was falling further and further away. Dugu Fengwu was shocked and anxious. She didn't expect young Dingtian to be so stubborn. He would rather die than take out the fire immunity chilling pearl. At the same time, young Dingtian was getting further and further away from her. Once he exceeded a certain distance, she would no longer be able to control young Dingtian with her mystic qi. 2,000 meters, 2,500 meters was the limit of her control. Soon, young Dingtian had fallen more than 2,500 meters. He still didn't take out the fire immunity chilling pearl. At this moment, Dugu Fengwu was in a life or death situation. She could either watch as young Dingtian escaped from her control, take out the fire immunity chilling pearl, enter the fire cloud devil cave, and leave with her tail between her legs. Or she could jump down. After hesitating for a few seconds, Dugu Fengwu would never admit defeat. Gritting her jade teeth, Dugu Fengwu leaped and abruptly jumped down. After jumping down, Dugu Fengwu circulated her mystic qi and rushed downwards. She turned into a red stream of light and chased after young Dingtian. Young Dingtian's falling speed was getting faster and faster, but in just a short moment, Dugu Fengwu had almost caught up to young Dingtian, and the distance between them was less than 100 meters. But at this moment, the dark cave suddenly lit up, and an incomparably bright and resplendent light burst out. It caused people to lose all their vision in an instant, leaving their minds blank. This kind of light could no longer be described as bright as day. It was the kind of destructive light that was close to the sun. Not only Yang Dingtian, but even Dugu Fengwu lost her vision. What followed was an earth-shattering cry that pierced through the clouds, causing the entire volcano to tremble. Boom! In the end, a flame that was close to the explosion of a nuclear bomb suddenly soared into the sky. The lord of the volcano, the 1,000-year-old heaven flame phoenix, had launched its attack. Yang Dingtian and Dugu Fengwu had really intruded into its territory, and it was furious. Yang Dingtian was startled as he immediately felt an energy attack that could destroy heaven and earth. Then, he quickly took out the fire immunity chilling pearl from his interspatial ring and put it in his mouth. His speed was already very fast, and the heaven flame phoenix's flames were still tens of thousands of meters away from him. But he could already feel his mystic meridians, his blood, his body, and everything about him withering and burning in an instant. At this moment, Yang Dingtian was only 0.01 seconds away from death, and he was going to die without any resistance. Previously, even when Zhu Hongshua's palm struck at Yang Dingtian, he didn't die, and his powerful 9 Yang mystic meridians withstood the attack. But now, facing this heaven flame phoenix, he really felt insignificant. It was as if he was going to turn into ashes in an instant, and he didn't even have time to feel pain. But all of this stopped as soon as Yang Dingtian put the fire immunity chilling pearl in his mouth. The moment the fire immunity chilling pearl entered his mouth, a cold but not bone-chilling energy immediately surrounded his body, isolating him from the heaven flame phoenix's terrifying energy. It was also at this moment that Yang Dingtian regained his vision, and he could see everything around him. He saw Dugu Fengwu was just a few meters away from him, and she was about to snatch the fire immunity chilling pearl from him. Then, with the heaven flame phoenix's terrifying attack, all of her movements froze. She was like a beautiful flower that was about to be destroyed by the light of the nuclear bomb. Dugu Fengwu blossomed into the most eye-catching beauty under the light of the flames. However, this kind of beauty would soon turn to ashes. Dugu Fengwu was much stronger than Yang Dingtian, and that was why she could still use all of her mystic qi to defend herself. But in the blink of an eye, she was already at the end of her rope, and when the flames engulfed her, she would be turned into ashes. The heaven flame phoenix's terrifying flames were something that not even a master realm expert could defend against. After all, the people of the primal chaos continent could only cultivate for 100 years, but the demonic beasts could cultivate for thousands of years. The flames coming up from below were getting closer and closer. It was really a pure blood-red flame, and it was the first time Yang Dingtian had seen a flame that was as red as blood. There was less than half a second left before Dugu Fengwu was destroyed. Even though Dugu Xiao was a master realm expert and a demon that terrorized the world, there was nothing he could do to save his daughter. No one in the world could save Dugu Fengwu, except for Yang Dingtian. But this demonic woman wanted to kill Yang Dingtian, and she was constantly tormenting Yang Dingtian. Just a moment ago, she threw Yang Dingtian down from above, just to force Yang Dingtian to hand over the fire immunity chilling pearl. In short, she didn't care about Yang Dingtian's life at all. So should Yang Dingtian save her? If he didn't, Dugu Fengwu would die without a doubt. Save? Yang Dingtian couldn't find any reason to save her. This demonic woman, I don't care if she dies. Yang Dingtian made up his mind. The flames that soared to the sky instantly arrived. It was as though it was going to devour heaven and earth, and Yang Dingtian and Dugu Fengwu were engulfed at the last moment. Dugu Fengwu was in Yang Dingtian's arms. Half of the fire immunity chilling pearl in his mouth was in Dugu Fengwu's lips. The icy cold energy of the fire immunity chilling pearl tightly surrounded the two of them. The boundless blood-red flames spread out from the cave that was 20,000 meters long, and they rushed out of the volcano and into the clouds. This wasn't a volcanic eruption, but it looked exactly like one. The entire mountain started to melt, and it turned red. Passing through the boundless flames, Yang Dingtian and Dugu Fengwu kept falling. The moment Yang Dingtian made a move to save Dugu Fengwu, he regretted it. He had already made up his mind to not care about Dugu Fengwu's life or death, but he still chose to save her at the last moment. Why? Because he couldn't bear to see a life die in front of him? No, Yang Dingtian wasn't that pretentious. Furthermore, he had killed countless people with his own hands. There was only one reason, and that was that Dugu Fengwu was a peerless beauty, a peerless demonic woman that was created by the gods. Yang Dingtian didn't like her, and he didn't want anything to happen between them. Furthermore, he didn't have the right to let his imagination run wild. He needed to become stronger, he needed to take back the Cloud Heaven City, and he needed to rescue Yin Yen from the Sea of Hades. He saved Dugu Fengwu because he didn't want to see the masterpiece of a master of creation wither like this. Perhaps that was the case, passing through the shocking flames that covered a range of 10,000 meters. When they fell to 10,000 meters, Yang Dingtian saw this heaven flame phoenix. However, the phoenix's appearance couldn't be seen anymore. Its entire body was covered in blood and flames. Its body, which was over 100 meters long, was completely embedded in the volcano. It was covered in wounds. This was a heaven flame phoenix that had lost its freedom. This was a phoenix that had been imprisoned. This heaven flame phoenix was riddled with wounds. This was a 1,000-year-old heaven flame phoenix, a demonic beast at the level of a demonic lord. Who could possibly imprison it? Yang Dingtian and Dugu Fengwu were still falling downwards. But he couldn't be bothered anymore. Thousands of meters, tens of thousands of meters. At this point, the heaven flame phoenix's shocking flames had dissipated, and the surroundings were plunged into darkness again. Yang Dingtian and Dugu Fengwu had already escaped from the heaven flame phoenix's attack range. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian felt the delicate body in his arms move. Dugu Fengwu woke up. Yang Dingtian pulled away from Dugu Fengwu's lips and said, "You don't have to thank me. I saved you because I took the wrong medicine." Before he could finish his words, Dugu Fengwu struck out with her palm, and Yang Dingtian immediately fainted. She didn't want to thank Yang Dingtian. Instead, she struck out with her palm. Fuck this demonic woman. This was Yang Dingtian's last thought. Soon enough, Yang Dingtian woke up. At this moment, he had stopped falling and was lying on the hard ground. His surroundings were pitch black, and he couldn't even see his own fingers. "Where is the mystic fire devil hammer? Hand it over, or I will tear you into pieces," Dugu Fengwu said coldly. Yang Dingtian was stunned. He sneered and said, "Demonic woman, even a prostitute isn't as heartless as you. Did I ask you to save me?" Dugu Fengwu still said the same thing. It was exactly the same as when they were on the isolated island. However, this time, Yang Dingtian was so angry that he wanted to vomit blood. "Also, where did you hide the fire immunity chilling pearl?" Dugu Fengwu asked coldly. "I hid it in the back of my eye." "How is it? Isn't it disgusting?" Yang Dingtian asked. After all, half of the fire immunity chilling pearl was in this demonic woman's mouth. "It is a little disgusting, but I don't mind," Dugu Fengwu said indifferently. "Then, where did you hide the mystic fire devil hammer?" Yang Dingtian was speechless. He crawled up from the ground and pretended to take out a night illumination pearl. This night illumination pearl was also a treasure. The radiance that it emitted might not be intense, but it was extremely long and could extend to every space. Right now there was good news and bad news. The good news was that there was no maze or secret passage here. The bad news was that this place was very, 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 very big. After going up for tens of thousands of meters, he would reach the bottom. Below him was an endless abyss, and there was nothing but a void. The surroundings were also empty and dark, and it was almost impossible to see the end. This was clearly tens of thousands of meters underground, but Yang Dingtian felt that this place was like the vast outer space of the universe. Everything in the surroundings was boundless darkness. Yang Dingtian was currently standing on a circular plate that was floating in the air. It had a diameter of over 20 meters. Yang Dingtian and Dugu Fengwu were constantly falling, and they were caught by this circular plate. However, where was the peak great earth fire? Chapter 158. Have you found a peak great earth fire? Yang Dingtian asked. No, Dugu Fengwu replied. How long until the earth fire blooms? Yang Dingtian asked. It should be blooming by now, Dugu Fengwu replied. However, there was no reaction from the surroundings. Are we going to jump down? Yang Dingtian asked. If you want to jump, you have to hand over the mystic fire devil hammer first. Dugafengwu said indifferently. She wouldn't jump down anyway, because she felt an incomparably fatal danger below. It was even more dangerous than the heaven flame phoenix. There is nothing around here. How can there be a peak great earth fire? Yang Dingtian asked. Dugafengwu didn't say anything. Instead, she grabbed Yang Dingtian and flew up a dozen meters. Then she said, "Look at the place you were lying on. What does it look like?" Yang Dingtian opened his eyes and looked. Yes, it looked like a candlestick, a round candlestick. Could it be a natural candlestick for a peak great earth fire? Why would a peak great earth fire bloom here? Just as Yang Dingtian was expressing his doubts, a green flame suddenly emerged from the platform. It was very young, very lively, very mysterious, and very beautiful. It was indeed here. A peak great earth fire was indeed here. This was a peak great earth fire. Yang Dingtian was ecstatic. Then he saw the seedling of earth fire grow bigger and bigger, bigger and bigger. But the strange thing was that Yang Dingtian couldn't feel the existence of any heat. It was as though it was an ice fire. However, Yang Dingtian could still feel its shocking energy. The surrounding air was avoiding it. The heaven flame phoenix was 10,000 meters above the ground. It didn't dare to make a sound. Its incomparably powerful energy was completely suppressed by this peak great earth fire, even though it was so far away. 10 minutes later, the flame was about 5 inches in size. Its color had also turned from green to blue. When the flame grew to 1 foot long, it would be considered to have reached the peak of maturity. However, when it was at its brightest, it could only last for less than 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, it would start to wither. Therefore, Yang Dingtian only had 20 minutes to forge the youngling sword. 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. The flame continued to grow bigger and bigger, turning from blue to yellow, and then from yellow to light red. Finally, the light red color gradually turned into a deep red color. The ultimate color of a supreme great earth fire was purple. Seeing the deep red color gradually turning into purple, Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu couldn't help but hold their breaths. At this moment, the flames were already 8 inches tall. Whoosh! There was no wind, but the top great earth flame flickered and suddenly rose to a height of 1 chi. At the same time, it turned a deep purple. The peak great earth fire had matured and completely bloomed. Moreover, this flame instantly became incomparably beautiful and enchanting. It was as if it had a soul, dancing and swaying gently, as if it was blooming with joy. It looked like a flower, but it also looked like a beauty. Looking at it, there was a kind of unreal beauty and dreamy feeling. At this moment, the supreme great earth fire displayed a completely different kind of peerless beauty. It didn't look like a flame, nor did it look like a flower. Instead, it looked like a life form, a peerless beauty that was blooming its beauty. Mystic Fire Devil Hammer. Dugafengwu stretched out her hand and directly asked Yang Dingtian for it. Yang Dingtian intentionally reached behind his back and took out the Mystic Fire Devil Hammer from his spatial ring. However, he pretended to take it out from under his butt. Dugafengwu was startled and slightly frowned. Of course, she knew that Yang Dingtian didn't really take out the Mystic Fire Devil Hammer from under his butt, but she couldn't care less at this moment. After taking the Mystic Fire Devil Hammer, Dugafengwu quickly took out a box from her back. She then took out the bloody black gold and threw it on top of the supreme great earth fire. She was very fast and quickly piled dozens of bloody black gold into a pyramid, burying the supreme great earth fire within. After that, Dugafengwu looked at this pyramid of bloody black gold nervously. In fact, 99 bloody black gold was enough to forge a complete soul sword. Now Dugafengwu actually used dozens of bloody black gold to forge a fledgling sword. It could be seen how high the grade of the soul sword that she was going to forge would be. At least a few hundred bloody black gold was needed, and it was unknown how many years she spent to obtain all these bloody black gold. My speed is considered slow. Your fiancé's fledgling sword has already been forged for 2 years, Dugafengwu said, but she couldn't help but look at Yang Dingtian with a proud expression. After that, Yang Dingtian saw that the extremely hard and sturdy bloody black gold was almost unafraid of any flames. It gradually turned from purple to red, just like before it was dug up. When these bloody black gold were red to the extreme, it gradually started to melt. 3 minutes later, a total of 45 bloody black gold turned into a pile of molten iron. The supreme great earth fire danced and jumped in the red molten iron. When the earth fire was blooming, it didn't feel hot at all. Now it was so hot that it felt like it was going to be roasted. Of course, the terrifying heat didn't come from the earth fire, but from the molten bloody black gold. Even though they were dozens of meters apart, Yang Dingtian could feel the terrifying heat. Therefore, even with Dugu Fengwu's strength, she only dared to stay dozens of meters away from this pile of molten iron. Dugu Fengwu put 2 fingers together in the air, and her entire body's mystic qi burst out. She used her mystic qi to gather the molten iron into the shape of an artifact sword. It was just that the rough embryo that hadn't been forged yet weighed 500 kilograms. It was over 2 meters long, 5 inches wide, and 3 inches tall. This kind of sword couldn't be used, because there were a lot of impurities in it. Therefore, the mystic fire devil hammer had to be used together with the supreme great earth fire to smash out the impurities and burn them with the earth fire. The sword embryo in front of Dugu Fengwu's eyes had to be hammered and forged countless times before it could become a complete fledgling sword. Even though it was just a fledgling sword, it was still very powerful. Even though it was just a fledgling sword, its power might have already surpassed most of the famed swords in the world. After condensing all the molten iron with her mystic qi, Dugu Fengwu held the mystic fire devil hammer with one hand and poured in her mystic qi. In an instant, the mystic fire devil hammer suddenly turned red and blossomed with a dazzling radiance. The originally ordinary mystic fire devil hammer had now become incomparably domineering and powerful. When the mystic fire devil hammer's radiance was at its peak, Dugu Fengwu let go of her jade-like hand. The devil hammer instantly floated in the air and flew towards the melted sword embryo. When it was above the sword embryo, the mystic fire devil hammer was raised high and smashed down. Even though Dugu Fengwu was dozens of meters away, she was still able to control the mystic fire devil hammer. It was as though she was holding the hammer and smashing it down. Dang! There was a loud sound, and the sword embryo suddenly burst out with countless gray spots. Under the effect of the supreme great earth fire, it was instantly burned and turned into ashes. Not a single impurity was left behind. Dang 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 dang. After that, Dugu Fengwu's right hand held the mystic fire devil hammer and rapidly hammered the forging fledgling sword. In just a short second, she had actually hammered down dozens of times. In an instant, countless sparks flew, and it was as though an incomparably resplendent firework was blooming. Yang Dingtian was temporarily petrified. An absolute beauty, wearing a gorgeous palace attire, was crazily hammering with a huge hammer. This scene was extremely impactful to anyone. However, Yang Dingtian wasn't in the mood to appreciate this incomparably moving scene. It was because he had discovered a very, very important problem. Firstly, he didn't have enough mystic qi to control the molten iron, and was unable to condense it into a sword embryo. Secondly, he didn't have enough mystic qi to swing the mystic fire devil hammer in the air. He didn't even have enough mystic qi to ignite the devil hammer. However, no one had told Yang Dingtian that he needed to do this. His master, Dongfang Minmi's soul spirit, was temporarily unable to awaken. Otherwise, he would have definitely told Yang Dingtian, and told him the solution. Just as Yang Dingtian was worrying about this, Dugu Fengwu had already hammered down thousands of times. Countless sparks flew, and the entire dark space was completely illuminated. After that thick sword embryo was constantly shrinking, at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was becoming more exquisite. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, Dugu Fengwu's skin was getting redder and redder. It was obvious that she had already exhausted all her strength. In just a few minutes, she had already hammered down thousands of times. For an expert of her level, it was almost impossible for her to sweat. However, at this moment, she was actually drenched in sweat. Her pair of beautiful eyes seemed to be burning. Dang 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 dang. In the last minute, she was hammering faster and faster. In the end, She couldn't even see the shadow of the devil hammer. Only a bundle of flames could be seen crazily drawing an arc. After that, countless sparks burst out. Ah! With a delicate cry, Dugufengwu opened her small mouth and spat out a stream of blood, which splashed onto the forged fledgling sword. See! The blood instantly evaporated. At the same time, the final hammer was hammered down. The forging of the entire sword soul, the fledgling sword, was completed. Dugufengwu's delicate body swayed slightly, and she almost collapsed to the ground. Letting out a long breath, her jade-like hand sucked, and that forged fledgling sword immediately flew to her palm. At this moment, the fiery red color had just faded away, and the entire fledgling sword revealed its true appearance. This truly didn't look like a fledgling sword. The blade light was like water, and it could cut through the hair. The entire treasured sword was exquisite to the extreme. It was sparkling and translucent. Anyone who saw it would know that this was an exceptional treasured sword. No one knew how stunning it would be when it truly turned into a soul sword in the future. The sword's weight is 130 kilograms, and the mystic chi boost is 25%. Dugufengwu grabbed her own fledgling sword, and her beautiful eyes revealed an intoxicated radiance. A fledgling sword forged with 45 pieces of bloody black gold was already considered a high-grade sword. A 130-kilogram fledgling sword was already a top-grade sword. Not to mention the 25% mystic chi boost, which was already very shocking. It had already surpassed most of the divine weapons in the world. The mystic chi boost was merely a supplementary function of the fledgling sword. Therefore, a soul sword was so powerful. Even a fledgling sword was so shocking. It's your turn. Dugufengwu swung the mystic fire devil hammer, and it instantly flew to Yang Dingtian. Her face was filled with undisguised ridicule. Yang Dingtian was merely a mystic martial warrior who wasn't even at the 6th grade, and he actually wanted to forge a sword soul fledgling sword. She really wanted to know what kind of fledgling sword Yang Dingtian could forge. Furthermore, she didn't see where Yang Dingtian placed the bloody black gold. Even if 9 pieces of bloody black gold were piled together, the volume would still be quite big. Yang Dingtian didn't care so much at this moment. He directly went to the side of the supreme grade earth fire. With his back facing Dugufengwu, he quickly poured all 45 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold onto the mystic fire. After that, he immediately took a dozen steps back and held the mystic fire devil hammer, waiting for the bloody black gold to melt. Behind him, Dugufengwu's beautiful eyes were looking at this pile of bloody black gold in disbelief. Where did Yang Dingtian hide so much bloody black gold? Where did he get it from? She was very puzzled, but this wasn't the most important thing right now. The most important thing was, where did Yang Dingtian get so much bloody black gold? Moreover, it was 10,000-year-old bloody black gold, which was completely different from the bloody black gold she had before. A total of 45 10,000-year-old bloody black gold. Where did he get it? Originally, Dugufengwu thought that Yang Dingtian had only gotten a few leftover pieces of bloody black gold from Shimen Wuya. At most, there wouldn't be more than 9 pieces. However, he actually took out 45 pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold in one go. This was too shocking and inconceivable. However, Yang Dingtian didn't care about Dugufengwu's astonished gaze. He had already waited for 3 minutes, and he still hadn't seen the bloody black gold melt. Dugufengwu's bloody black gold had already completely melted into a pile of molten iron. Another 2 minutes passed. That pile of bloody black gold hadn't melted, but it had turned red. Another 3 minutes passed. Yang Dingtian's 45 pieces of bloody black gold had finally melted, but they hadn't turned into molten iron yet. They had only melted into a lump. What was strange was that when Dugufengwu's bloody black gold melted, the temperature was very shocking. However, at this moment, Yang Dingtian was less than 10 meters away, and he actually couldn't feel any heat. There were only less than 2 minutes left before the peak-grade earth fire withered. Yang Dingtian couldn't wait any longer. He couldn't use his mystic chi to condense the melted bloody black gold into a shape, and he couldn't wield the mystic fire devil hammer in the air. Therefore, he held the mystic fire devil hammer tightly and poured in his mystic chi. Swish! Suddenly, This mystic fire devil hammer bloomed with a dazzling light. It was even more shocking than when Dugu Fengwu poured in her mystic qi. What was going on? Could it be that this mystic fire devil hammer didn't have a requirement for the level of mystic qi, but the grade of mystic meridians? Dugu Fengwu once again revealed a look of disbelief. She looked at young Ding Tian with a complicated gaze. After a slight surprise, young Ding Tian didn't have any extra time. He walked directly to the pile of bloody black gold and smashed down with his hammer. Bang! There was a loud sound and countless rays of light burst out. This was the impurities in the 10,000-year-old bloody black gold. The light that burst out was like a planet exploding, bursting out dust. It was incomparably small, but incomparably dazzling, and it covered the entire space. This countless dust was like a comet cloud blooming, but it was fleeting. Therefore, it couldn't hurt anyone. Bang! Bang! There wasn't much time left. Young Ding Tian crazily hammered down and hammered. His speed wasn't as fast as Dugu Fengwu, and he could only hammer down 7 or 8 times in a second. In the burst of flames, that pile of bloody black gold was gradually forged by young Ding Tian. However, the remaining 2 minutes passed quickly. The supreme great earth fire flickered for a moment before it began to shrink and fade. The earth fire began to wither. Using the last bit of heat, young Ding Tian crazily hammered down. He used up all his mystic qi, used up all his knowledge, and forgot everything around him. In the entire world, there was only the incomplete sword in front of him, and the mystic fire devil hammer in his hand. Dang 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 dang. He crazily hammered and forged. That mystic fire was getting smaller and smaller, and its color was getting lighter and lighter. The sword embryo that young Ding Tian was crazily hammering was getting darker and harder. The bloody black gold was about to solidify. He had to take advantage of the last bit of heat left in the bloody black gold to inscribe his master's mark with blood. Otherwise it would be too late. Last 100 times, just 100 times. Young Ding Tian wasn't willing to let it end like this. He fiercely bit his tongue and hammered crazily with his mouth full of blood. 20 times, 30 times, 50 times. The peak grade earth fire was getting darker and darker, and it was almost invisible. With just a breath, it would be extinguished. As for that sword embryo, it was almost completely solidified. Young Ding Tian crazily hammered down. 80 times, 90 times, 100 times. PFFF. Finally, young Ding Tian fiercely spat out a mouthful of blood, which sprayed on the sword embryo and the almost extinguished peak grade earth fire. Boom! Suddenly, a lump of flame soared to the sky. Afterward, all the flames seemed to be alive as they drilled into that youngling sword that young Ding Tian was forging. As for the pale white earth fire, it shook for a moment before completely disappearing. Young Ding Tian's legs went soft, and he collapsed on the ground, unable to get up for a moment. Aren't you going to see what your youngling sword looks like? Dugu Fengwu asked. Young Ding Tian used all his strength to crawl up from the ground and walked over to grab that youngling sword. At the same time, a lump of flame lit up. Dugu Fengwu used her mystic qi to ignite a lump of flame. PFFF. Seeing the shape of young Ding Tian's youngling sword, Dugu Fengwu couldn't help but laugh. As for young Ding Tian, he wanted to cry. Was this a sword? It was obviously an iron rod, a pitch-black iron rod. Furthermore, this wasn't an iron rod that was used for practicing martial arts. It was a very coarse and irregularly shaped fire rod. It was very heavy, and young Ding Tian could feel that this iron rod was at least 150 kilograms. Dugu Fengwu's youngling sword was only 50 kilograms, which was only 1/3 of young Ding Tian's youngling sword's weight. However, there was another feeling, a warm feeling. It was very strange, very comfortable, and even very mysterious. It was as though this iron rod was faintly hiding an ignorant soul. As long as young Ding Tian held on to this iron rod tightly, he would be able to feel its excitement and restlessness. It was as though it couldn't wait to interact with young Ding Tian intimately. However, it couldn't move or speak. There was only a feeling, a subtle and intimate feeling. Young Ding Tian's heart felt warm as he looked at this iron rod, and instantly felt that it was much cuter. No matter what it looked like, it was ultimately forged by him. Every piece of bloody black gold was dug out by him, and it was as though it was his own child. No matter what, it was the cutest. It is you. You will be my weapon for this lifetime. From today onwards, we will be inseparable. Yang Dingtian slowly said in his heart. As though it felt Yang Dingtian's words, that lump of chaos in the youngling's sword jumped again. Your youngling's sword, let me take a look. Dugu Fengwu extended her hand and said. Yang Dingtian hesitated for a moment before handing it over. Oh my God! How is this possible? After Dugu Fengwu received it, she instantly let out a cry of surprise. She then looked at Yang Dingtian with an expression of disbelief and said, Yang Dingtian, are you the illegitimate child of the heavens? Thank you everyone. Chapter 160. It is actually rejecting me, as though a child wants to kick me. It actually has divine senses. How is this possible? It is just a fledgling sword, but it already has divine senses? Dugu Fengwu was appalled. For 1,000 years, all the fledgling swords didn't have divine senses. They had to wait until they were forged into soul swords before they would have primal divine senses. Yang Dingtian's sword was just a fledgling sword, but it already had divine senses. Even though it was still in a primal state, it was just like an embryo. Immediately after, Dugu Fengwu poured some mystic qi into the artifact sword. Bang! Immediately after, this mystic qi was pushed back to her. And it was 40% more mystic qi than the one she poured in. Dugu Fengwu's beautiful eyes lit up as she looked at this fledgling sword that was like a fire stick. Her beautiful face was filled with shock as she said slowly, Yang Dingtian, your fledgling sword weighs 390 kilograms. The mystic qi is added to 39%. 39%? So high! Yang Dingtian exclaimed. The mystic qi was added to 39%. This was completely beyond any famed sword in the world. It was a heaven-defying number. That's right. It is so high. Dugu Fengwu said. Therefore, I want to kill you even more because your fledgling sword is better than mine. Even though it is more than 150 kilograms, its purity is still higher than my fledgling sword, because you used 10,000-year-old bloody black gold. Immediately after, Dugu Fengwu looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time and said, Are you really the illegitimate child of the heavens? Otherwise, I taught you a fake hidden sex sword art, and you actually cultivated it into the real one. Otherwise, you are just a mystic martial warrior, who isn't even at the 6-star mystic martial warrior level. How could you forge a sword soul fledgling sword that is better than mine? Furthermore, it is just a fledgling sword, but it already has primal consciousness. Yang Dingtian only smiled and didn't say anything. Dugu Fengwu only saw the result, but she didn't see the blood and tears behind it. Yang Dingtian, you forged a peerless fledgling sword or even better. Dugu Fengwu said slowly. It might be ugly, but it is still a peerless elementary sword. It is at least 1 grade higher than mine. Yang Dingtian's heart suddenly became even more ecstatic. He tightly gripped the ugly fledgling sword. It was really heavy. With a weight of more than 300 pounds, Yang Dingtian naturally had no problem holding it in his hands. However, if he wanted to use the pig-slaying swordsmanship gracefully and quickly, it would be very difficult. At the very least, the speed would be 4 or 5 times slower. In this way, the lethality would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Yang Dingtian must increase his strength and xian qi. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to use his own treasured sword. Yang Dingtian went through untold hardships, and finally forged a peerless fledgling sword. Of course, this was only a fledgling sword. It was still unable to cultivate a sword soul. It needed to become a real soul sword before it could cultivate an extremely powerful sword soul. Next, he had to find a heaven and earth mystic flame to refine into his heart fire. After that, he would go to the depths of the abandoned mine in the northwest Qing clan's territory. On the other side of the unfreezing pond, he would kill that extremely powerful abyss lord, and obtain the remaining 9 million pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold. Finally, he would use the heaven and earth mystic flame to put the fledgling sword and the 9 million pieces of 10,000-year-old bloody black gold together to forge a real soul sword. It would be a peerless or even emperor-grade soul sword. Alright, it is time to go out. Dugu Fengwu said, hand over the fire immunity chilling pearl. Just like before, we will share the energy of the fire immunity chilling pearl. After that, I will bring you and fly out of here. That way, I will not owe you anything. Yang Dingtian shook his head. Dugu Fengwu said coldly, don't refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Don't force me to destroy your fledgling sword. Yang Dingtian said, there is no more fire immunity chilling pearl. It has completely melted in my mouth. Oh no, it is in our mouth. What? Dugu Fengwu exclaimed, melted? It has used up all of its icy cold energy. That is why it has disappeared. Yang Dingtian said. When I was alone, it was just enough to enter the fire cloud devil cave. But just now, it had to protect the two of us. That is why its energy was used up in advance. Then should I thank you? Dugu Fengwu said coldly. Her voice was very unfriendly. Yang Dingtian did not answer. Don't tell me you are plotting something again? Dugu Fengwu said coldly. If I was plotting something, why would I save you just now? Yang Dingtian said unhappily. Instantly, the two of them fell into silence again. Are we really unable to get out? Yang Dingtian asked. You can try to climb up, and see if the heaven flame phoenix will spit at you. If it does, let's see if you will die. Dugu Fengwu sneered. Didn't your parents teach you to speak properly? Yang Dingtian said coldly. What is the point of speaking so viciously all the time? If you don't like it, don't talk to me. Dugu Fengwu said coldly. Why do you hate men so much? Yang Dingtian asked. I don't hate men. I just hate them. Of course, I hate women even more. Dugu Fengwu said. If we are talking about hatred, I hate you the most. You have tainted me. At this moment, Yang Dingtian had already learned to completely ignore the extremely stimulating word taint. He didn't want to argue and just sneered. You hate both men and women. Then, who do you like and who do you love? I love myself. Can't I? Dugu Fengwu sneered. Yang Dingtian was speechless again. After a moment of silence, Dugu Fengwu suddenly asked, if you can get out, what are you going to do next? Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and said, I will use 3 months to advance from a 5-star mystic martial warrior to a great mystic martial master. Then, I will look for a powerful mystic skill to learn. Then, I will use half a year to find a heaven and earth mystic flame, and refine my heart fire. If all goes well, refining the heart fire might be my biggest breakthrough in history. In short, I will break through to a 5-star martial mystic expert within a year. Then, I will have the chance to defeat Shiman Ju in the martial arts competition 1 year later. I will take back the Cloud Heaven City Lord position, and bring Yin Yan back to Cloud Heaven City. I will let Big Brother Shiman lie, and the others return to Cloud Heaven City. Dugu Fengwu turned to look at him, and said indifferently, You must be dreaming. Who do you think you are to break through to the 30th rank in a year? Dugu Fengwu said, With my talent, I will not be able to break through to the 5th rank in a year. If you want to break through to the 30th rank, it will be faster to slit your own throat. You demonic woman, don't talk to me. Yang Dingtian was instantly flustered and exasperated. He wondered if this demonic woman was a cobra in her previous life. Why was her mouth so poisonous? There is also the heaven and earth mystic flame. Even I, a martial supreme expert, don't have it. If a small character like you wants to get it in a year, you are dreaming. Dugu Fengwu continued with her poisonous tongue. You are a martial supreme? Yang Dingtian was shocked. Oh right. Shiman Lai once said that this demonic woman was already a martial supreme expert. What else do you think? Dugu Fengwu sneered and said, With your lousy Cloud Heaven City and Shiman Wuya gone, there is basically no one who can be my opponent. Furthermore, I am only 26 years old this year. Dongfang Bingling is only 20 years old. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but want to attack her arrogance. As expected, Dugu Fengwu's expression turned ugly. She snorted and said, So what? What relationship does she have with you? You still have the face to show her off. Don't think that just because she is your fiancé, you can act as if you are close to her. In her eyes you are nothing. These words were very hurtful, but Yang Dingtian wasn't very angry. He had a certain understanding of Dugu Fengwu now. This demonic woman was extremely ruthless and heartless. She had a very low EQ, a narrow mind and a thick skin. Following which, Dugu Fengwu said coldly, At most 20 years. I will slaughter that slut Dongfang Bingling. In this world, anyone who is younger and more formidable than me will have to die. Yang Dingtian was completely speechless. He really wanted to say, fortunately, you aren't interested in becoming the temple lord of the Temple of Blood. Otherwise, the entire evil ways would be screwed over by a stupid and ruthless woman like you. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but sneer and said, wait until you can get out. Otherwise, you will be doomed to watch Dongfang Bingling flaunt her prowess and lead the Tiando League to exterminate all evil ways. Pa! Dugafengwu didn't retort. Instead, she slapped with her sword. Yang Dingtian felt an intense pain on his cheek before he vomited a mouthful of blood. Even his teeth were loosened. This demonic woman! Yang Dingtian instantly gritted his teeth. She was the only one who had a vicious tongue. If someone else had a vicious tongue, and she couldn't win against them, she would immediately use violence. After making her move, Dugafengwu said coldly, if you say something that makes me unhappy again, I will cut off your tongue too. Yang Dingtian wiped off the bloodstain on the corner of his mouth and let out a cold smile. He didn't say anything else. This kind of demonic woman was completely unreasonable. Completely ignoring her was the best choice. Therefore, Yang Dingtian hugged that steel rod and youngling sword and immediately laid down to sleep. He didn't expect that in such a desperate situation, there would be such a ruthless and heartless demonic woman by his side. Yang Dingtian actually fell asleep. After sleeping for an unknown period of time, when Yang Dingtian woke up again, Dugafengwu had closed her eyes and was recuperating. Yang Dingtian closed his eyes and entered the state of recuperation. He instantly fell asleep. After an unknown period of time, Yang Dingtian woke up again. Dugafengwu was pacing back and forth in annoyance. Yang Dingtian ignored her and still closed his eyes to sleep. Who knew that Dugafengwu would pull his ear and say, don't sleep. Sleep, 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 sleep. You only know how to sleep. Are you a pig? How long have I slept? Yang Dingtian asked. 5 days. Dugafengwu replied. 5 days. Yang Dingtian was astonished. He didn't expect that 5 days had passed after 2 sleeps. No wonder he felt that his injuries were almost healed. We can't wait any longer. We have to find a way out. Dugafengwu said. We are now about 30,000 meters underground. The Heaven Flame Phoenix is above us. We can't go up. We can't see the bottom, and I can't see what is below. However, I feel that it is more dangerous than the Heaven Flame Phoenix. That's right. Right now there was no way to go up or down. There was really no way out. I have an idea, Dugafengwu said. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a dangerous light. Yang Dingtian's hair stood on end. He immediately stood up and took a few steps back, trying to get as far away from this demonic woman as possible. I feel that there is a fatal danger down there, but I don't know what it is. Therefore, I want you to go down and check it out, Dugafengwu said. You can go if you want, Yang Dingtian said. Before he could finish, Dugafengwu's delicate body rushed over like lightning. She grabbed Yang Dingtian's body and threw him down into the bottomless abyss. Yang Dingtian, who was falling crazily, was furious. He said, Dugafengwu, just you wait. I will rape and kill you in the future. Just you wait. This demonic woman was too ruthless. She was completely inhumane. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's voice was getting farther and farther away. Finally, it couldn't be heard anymore. Falling down, falling down, falling down, falling down. Yang Dingtian's body kept falling. It was as if there was no end to it. He didn't know how long he had been falling, and he didn't know how far he had fallen. Just as Yang Dingtian circulated all his mystic qi to protect himself, and was prepared to turn into meat paste, his body suddenly stopped falling. There was nothing blocking Yang Dingtian. He had lost all gravity and inertia. He was floating in the air. This was zero gravity. That's right, zero gravity. Where is this place? There is actually zero gravity, Yang Dingtian thought to himself. He couldn't have reached the Earth's core, right? What is this place? There is actually zero gravity? Yang Dingtian was shocked. Chapter 161. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and pushed his hands up, forcing out a surge of mystic chi. He let the mystic chi's reaction force push him to the ground slowly. The surroundings were still dark, so Yang Dingtian didn't know how far he was from the ground. He kept falling slowly. He fell for tens of meters, hundreds of meters, hundreds of meters. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian stepped on something hard. It seemed to be the ground. Yang Dingtian hooked the tip of his foot and stepped on it firmly. Suddenly, the surroundings lit up. Hiss! Yang Dingtian took a deep breath of cold air. Where is this? Is this the Heaven Palace? At this moment, Yang Dingtian was in an incomparably huge palace. There were 5 huge doors around him. Each door was a few hundred meters tall, and each door was as huge as a mountain. The entire hall of the palace was more than 100,000 square meters, and it was as big as dozens of soccer fields. Yang Dingtian was about 200 meters away from the ground, and he didn't know what he was stepping on. Yang Dingtian kept turning around and looking at his surroundings. What is this place? How could it be so majestic? No matter if it was the Cloud Heaven City or the Inyang School, they had never seen such a huge and majestic palace. Yang Dingtian looked at the 5 doors carefully. They were all different colors: red, blue, gold, and colorless. The last door's color kept changing. It was red for a moment, blue for a moment, and then white for a moment. I wonder what is behind the 5 doors. Whoosh! Suddenly, there was a gust of wind. Then a graceful figure suddenly fell. Dugufumu jumped down. She must have seen the light below, so she jumped down as well. Soon enough, Dugufumu also entered the zero-gravity region and floated in the air. Her jade-like hand cleaved the air, and her delicate body fell like a meteor, landing directly beside Yang Dingtian. After landing, Dugufumu was stunned and looked at everything in disbelief. After half a minute, Dugufumu sighed and said, Yang Dingtian, I really don't know how to describe your luck. After throwing you down like this, not only did you not die, but you also found a mystic realm. Mystic realm? Yang Dingtian didn't want to bother with this demonic woman, but when he heard the words mystic realm, he couldn't help but exclaim, This is a mystic realm? Of course. Dugufumu's beautiful eyes rippled as she said, If this isn't a mystic realm left behind from ancient times, which sect would have the ability to build such a majestic palace underground? Yang Dingtian's heart instantly. He was already overjoyed when he found the best quality earth fire, and forged the youngling sword so smoothly. Now he had actually discovered another secret realm. Mystic realms were the most mystical places in this world, and they were also the most precious things left behind by the ancient world. Anyone who entered a mystic realm would only have 2 endings. Either they would advance by leaps and bounds, or they would die in the mystic realm. Shimin Wuya's talent wasn't considered top-notch. After he chose to learn a 9th grade manual, he didn't make any progress for nearly 10 years. Therefore, when he was traveling outside, he accidentally entered a mystic realm from ancient times. It was then that he had a huge breakthrough, and his martial skills advanced by leaps and bounds. He jumped into the ranks of the strongest martial artists in the world. If it wasn't because he was trying to save Yang Dingtian, and was framed by Zhu Qingzhu, he would be the undisputed #1 martial artist in the world 10 years later. This was the power of a mystic realm. The same thing happened to Dongfang Bingling. This proud and arrogant girl chose to learn the most difficult 9th grade superior grade manual in history. Therefore, even though she had the best Xian veins in the world, she didn't make any progress for a few years. During those years, Dongfang Mimi wasn't there. She was ridiculed in the Inyang school. Everyone thought of her as a beautiful vase, and there were even people who wanted to use force to taint her beauty, even though she was only 13 or 14 years old. Therefore, she couldn't stand such a life, and like Shimin Wuya, she chose to leave and travel outside. When she returned 3 years later, she was already a martial Xian expert. After another 2 years, she broke through martial Xian, martial great master, and directly became a martial honorable. A 20-year-old martial honorable. It was shocking. Even if one ignored her age, a martial honorable was enough to run rampant in the world. From then on, she soared to the heavens and became a high and mighty immortal. She was like the bright moon and stars in the sky, too high to reach. Although no one knew what she had encountered during her travels, Everyone guessed that she had found a secret realm and had achieved a breakthrough in it. This was the power of a mystic realm. Anyone who cultivated in a mystic realm and didn't die would have their cultivation improve by leaps and bounds. It was even an unimaginable breakthrough. Now Yang Dingtian had entered a mystic realm. Didn't you say that you felt a dangerous aura? Yang Dingtian suddenly said. Why do I feel that this place is very peaceful? Boom! Before Yang Dingtian could finish his words, there was a sudden tremor. The ground under his feet suddenly moved. Then, a huge palm suddenly lifted up and directly slapped Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu down. Huff! An incomparably huge palm force pressed Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu to the ground. Then, under Yang Dingtian's horrified gaze, a three-headed stone giant suddenly stood up and looked down at Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu. It turned out that Yang Dingtian had been standing on the head of this stone giant, and Dugafengwu felt an incomparably dangerous aura, which also came from this stone giant. This stone giant held an incomparably huge hammer in his right hand. He had 3 heads, but each head only had 1 eye. This giant was at least 300 to 400 meters tall. Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu were like ants under his feet. The giant hammer in his hand was as big as a house. He looked as tall as a mountain. Please show your identity. Otherwise, we will kill without mercy. Those who are not guests of the 5 Elements Hall are not allowed to enter. From the stone giant's mouth, there was a buzzing sound. It had a kind of computerized sound, but the sound was really loud, as though it was going to deafen the ears. The guardian will start the countdown to identify the intruder. 9, 8. Please show your identity. Otherwise, we will kill without mercy. 7. Those who are not guests of the 5 Elements Hall are not allowed to enter. Yang Dingtian looked at Dugafengwu and asked, Can you beat this giant? Dugafengwu was so nervous that she was breathing rapidly. She rolled her eyes at Yang Dingtian and said, What do you think? Then compared to the Heaven Flame Phoenix, who is more powerful? Yang Dingtian continued to ask, What's the difference? Dugafengwu said, You only need to know that even a master-level expert would be smashed into meat paste by this giant's hammer. I don't know how to describe someone of your level. Even saying that you can stomp an ant to death is a little too flattering. Even at this time, Dugafengwu didn't forget to use her venomous tongue. 6, 5. The giant was still counting down. 4, 3, 2, 1. You are not a guest. You are not allowed to enter. Violators will be killed without mercy. Killed without mercy. After finishing his words, the giant smashed his hammer at Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu. The hammer was as big as a house, and it weighed hundreds of thousands to millions of kilograms. It was going to smash at Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu's heads. Yang Dingtian tried his best to run towards any of the 5 doors. As long as he could get through the door, he would be safe. But soon he realized that his entire body was locked down. It was like Sun Wukong being suppressed under the 5 Elements mountain. He couldn't move at all. Facing the deadly hammer, Dugafengwu didn't have any intention to resist. Instead, her beautiful eyes stared at Yang Dingtian. What? Do you want to take a good look at me before you die? Yang Dingtian asked in a cold voice. I am hesitating if I should kill you at this time, Dugafengwu said. Yang Dingtian was completely speechless. They were about to be killed by the giant, and this demonic woman was still thinking about killing Yang Dingtian. The giant's hammer was getting closer and closer. The speed might not be fast, but there was no way for them to resist. We're going to die. Tell me honestly, did you rape me? Dugafengwu asked. Yang Dingtian was completely speechless. If I knew that you would be so hateful and annoying, I would have raped you before killing you. Then I would have raped you and killed you again. Rape, rape, kill, kill, rape. At this moment, the giant hammer was already above their heads. Yang Dingtian could feel the pressure of Mount Tai. If this giant hammer smashed down, let alone turning them into meat paste, Yang Dingtian and Dugafengwu would definitely be turned into ashes. Am I going to die like this? Yang Dingtian said in his heart. I am not willing. I am not willing. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian thought of something. It was the tear-shaped accessory that Ningning gave him. Back at the blood pool, Yang Dingtian revealed this tear-shaped accessory which made the fire demon Lion King, which was close to 1,000 years old, flee. Even that powerful demonic beast didn't have the courage to take a look at it. This three-headed giant in front of them was undoubtedly several times stronger than that fire demon Lion King. In that case, would it recognize this tear-shaped accessory? Just as the hammer was about to smash down on their heads, Yang Dingtian reached out to touch the tear-shaped accessory and poured in a stream of mystic qi. In an instant, the magnificent, sparkling, and translucent tear-shaped accessory revealed itself. At the same time, the hammer that was smashing down suddenly stopped and was suspended above Yang Dingtian's head. It was just 3 inches away from their heads. The giant stared blankly at the tear-shaped accessory on Yang Dingtian's neck. It seemed to have sunk into memories, and also seemed to be searching for memories. Its 3 giant eyes were in a daze. Yang Dingtian and Dugufengwu were just like prisoners waiting for judgment. They would either become the honored guests of the mystic realm, or be smashed into meat paste. When facing the giant of the ancient world, Dugufengwu didn't have any strength to resist. Chapter 162. Only fire burns the heart. Only ice seals the heart. Only wind moves the heart. Only lightning cracks the heart. Only metal strengthens the heart. I'm afraid the 5 elements are injured, and the mystic sea is unable to control itself. I suspect it's the Vajra form, but it's still a flesh body. Yang Dingtian wholeheartedly entered the realm of breathing mystic qi. An endless mystic qi surged in. Instantly, Yang Dingtian felt an incomparably comfortable coolness all over his body. After the endless mystic qi surged into the mystic meridians, it finally converged into the qi vessel. It was unknown how much time had passed. Perhaps it was a few minutes, or perhaps it was a few hours. Finally, the entire qi vessel was filled, and it actually started to swell. Immediately after, the qi vessel started to throb, and so did the mystic meridians in his body. He was actually about to break through. The power of this mystic realm was actually so shocking. He was about to break through just by breathing once. Boom! A golden light burst out from the qi vessel, and Yang Dingtian instantly lost all his senses. All the mystic meridians in his body entered a temporary stagnation. When Yang Dingtian completely recovered his divine sense, pure mystic qi surged into his mystic meridians again. At this moment, the qi vessel was empty, and it greedily absorbed the endless mystic qi. He actually broke through. Yang Dingtian shockingly realized that he actually broke through and became a 6-star mystic martial warrior. According to the normal speed, Yang Dingtian would need to cultivate for at least 2 to 3 months to break through from 5-star to 6-star mystic martial warrior. But in this mystic realm, he actually broke through after a few hours of cultivation. This was too sensational. Could this be the power of the mystic realm? This was too powerful and too miraculous. No wonder people said that the mystic realm was the greatest gift of the ancient world. It was also the greatest fortuitous encounter that martial artists could encounter. This cultivation speed was truly heaven-defying and shocking. Just as Yang Dingtian was immersed in the joy of breaking through, he suddenly felt a chill on his body, and he couldn't help but open his eyes. He instantly saw a pair of beautiful eyes staring at him. It was actually Dugufengwu. He didn't expect her to return, and he didn't know how long she had been back. He also didn't know if she had found the exit. However, the look in her eyes right now was a little dangerous. Temporarily putting aside the joy of the breakthrough, Yang Dingtian asked, "Have you found the exit?" Dugufengwu nodded and said, "Every faction has 5 secret rooms, and behind the 6th door is the seabed. As long as they could pass through the 5th room, they would be able to leave. The 6th room of any element, metal, fire, ice, lightning, or wind, led to the sea. Of course, I only explored the rooms of the 4 elements. The room of the lightning element was too perverted and dangerous, so I didn't go in." Yang Dingtian said, "That's great news. You can leave this place now." Dugufengwu continued, "This 5 elements hall mystic realm is useless to me, but it seems to be tailor-made for you. As long as you can get out of here, you will have a shocking breakthrough. You will even soar into the sky." "I'm really lucky," Yang Dingtian said. "Since you've already found the exit, Why did you come back? After the demoness found the exit, she would definitely leave by herself. Would she be so kind as to bring Yang Dingtian out? He strongly doubted it. I'm here to kill you, Dugufengwu said. When she said this sentence, it was extremely natural. Yang Dingtian didn't know how many times he had heard this sentence. Calluses were about to form in his ears. Please, can you say something more creative? Yang Dingtian couldn't help but ask. At this moment, Dugufengwu's sentence didn't have any effect on him. Dugufengwu smiled and looked at Yang Dingtian with her beautiful eyes. Her voice turned gentle as she asked, That's right. Do you have any wishes that you haven't fulfilled? After I get out, I will help you fulfill them? She had never spoken with such a gentle voice before. This tone wasn't right, and it was even dangerous. Yang Dingtian was slightly startled. He then shook his head and said, No, I don't have any wishes that I need you to fulfill. You really don't have any? Dugufengwu laughed and said, For example, helping you kill Shimanju? Or helping you rescue Yanyan Shiman? In short, apart from defeating Dongfang Bingling immediately, I can help you fulfill your other wishes. Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, I have to complete these things myself. You won't be able to fulfill them. Dugufengwu smiled and said, Because I am going to kill you. I know that I have said this sentence many times. Yang Dingtian's expression turned serious. He looked at Dugufengwu for a long time and said slowly, Are you serious? Dugufengwu nodded and said, That's right, I am serious. Immediately after, Dugufengwu said, Actually, I am serious every time I say that I am going to kill you. It is just that I didn't obtain the fire immunity chilling pearl previously, so I couldn't kill you. After entering the fire cloud devil cave, I thought that we wouldn't be able to get out, so I didn't have to kill you first. Now that we can get out, and I have successfully forged the youngling sword, it is time to kill you. Why? Yang Dingtian asked slowly. I can feel that your existence will completely destroy the entire evil ways. Dugufengwu said, You have unfathomable mystic meridian's talent. I taught you a fake hidden sex sword art, but you were able to master it. You are clearly a 5-star mystic martial warrior, but you are able to forge a soul sword that is stronger than mine. You actually discovered a mystic realm. After a few months, you will be able to advance by leaps and bounds and soar to the sky. All of these will be the reason why I am going to kill you. Taking a deep breath, Dugufengwu continued. In short, I feel that within 5 years, you might be able to catch up to me. Within 10 years, you will be able to surpass me. 15 or 20 years later, you might be unrivaled in the world. The revival of our entire evil ways might be destroyed by your hands. With such a formidable enemy, you must be killed before he becomes strong. Yang Dingtian looked at Dugufengwu and didn't say a word. In just an instant, you actually broke through. Such mystic meridian's talent is too sensational. Dugufengwu said indifferently, I am going to kill you today, but you have saved my life twice. Therefore, I am going to kill you instead. Even though I am a ruthless and heartless person, it is still hard for me to make a move. Therefore, if you have any wishes, I will fulfill them for you. This way, I will be able to kill you with a clear conscience. Yang Dingtian shook his head and said, If you want to kill me, then kill me. I don't have anything that requires your help. No, you have to say something that you want me to do for you. Dugufengwu said, You have saved my life twice. If I were to kill you like this, then today will become my eternal heart demon, and it will have a fatal impact on my cultivation. Therefore, you have to say something that you want me to do for you. Yang Dingtian took out the 300-kilogram youngling sword from his spatial ring and pointed it at Dugufengwu. He shook his head and said, I don't have anything that requires your help. Dugufengwu suddenly drew out the sharp sword. Her smiling face gradually disappeared, and her expression turned icy cold. She said slowly, All right, then I will make my move. You can only blame yourself for meeting me. Finishing her statement, Dugufengwu circulated all the mystic qi in her body and thrust out her sword. Yang Dingtian raised the heavy sword in his hand, but he didn't block Dugufengwu's sword. Instead, he smashed it at her head. Dugufengwu's sword was very fast, and it instantly reached Yang Dingtian's neck. Yang Dingtian's entire body turned ice cold from the invasion of the killing aura. Just as the sword tip pierced through Yang Dingtian's flesh, Dugu Fengwu's sword stopped. Her absolutely beautiful face was in extreme pain. No, if I kill you like this, I will really have a heart demon, and it will destroy my cultivation for the rest of my life. Dugu Fengwu suddenly withdrew her sharp sword and looked at Yang Dingtian with her beautiful eyes for a long time. She said, Yang Dingtian, I will ask you one last time. That day at the blood pool, did you do anything unspeakable to me? Yang Dingtian let out a cold laugh and didn't answer. He really didn't want to answer this question. You have to answer me. This is very important, Dugu Fengwu said. Are you trying to find a reason to kill me? Yang Dingtian sneered and said, All right, I did do it that day. Kill me, kill me. Dugu Fengwu looked at Yang Dingtian for a long time and shook her head. It seems like you really didn't touch me. Furthermore, you saved me time and time again. It is really hard for me to make a decision. Subsequently, Dugu Fengwu seemed to have fallen into a difficult decision. Yang Dingtian sneered. It seemed like this demonic woman still had some conscience. After 10 minutes, she seemed to have made a decision and said, I know what to do. Yang Dingtian was startled. What was this demonic woman trying to do? I will give myself to you. This way, I can kill you with a clear conscience. Dugu Fengwu said, Didn't you say that you didn't touch me? Now that you have, I won't have wronged you previously. I also have a reason to kill you. Shameless, shameless to the extreme. Afterward, she took a step forward and grabbed Yang Dingtian's neck. Yang Dingtian slashed at her with his ugly sword and shouted, Get lost! You crazy demonic woman! You can humiliate yourself, but don't humiliate me. Dugu Fengwu casually pushed Yang Dingtian's heavy sword to the side. Mystic qi gushed out from her hand, and Yang Dingtian's mystic meridians were instantly restrained, making him unable to move. Afterward, when Yang Dingtian was completely unable to move, Yang Dingtian's body began to tremble. He looked on helplessly as everything happened. This demonic woman kept saying that Yang Dingtian did something to her. But in the end, she really did such a thing. Even though the scene was fiery, the two people's eyes were still cold. After everything was over, Dugu Fengwu looked at Yang Dingtian and released his mystic qi restriction. Yang Dingtian regained his ability to move. Dugu Fengwu's eyes were a little complicated as she revealed some hesitation. Finally, she gritted her teeth and said, Yang Dingtian, I should send you on your way. Don't worry, I will be quick. Note: Brothers, please give me 2 monthly votes. There should be a 5th update. I am really going all out. I beg for the support of all the bosses. Due to the changes in the chapter, but to maintain the original word count, I had to use this paragraph to fill in the gaps. Apologies. Chapter 163. Afterward, Dugu Fengwu held onto Yang Dingtian's face with one hand and pressed on his heart with the other. You are the only man I have ever been close to. I will remember you for the rest of my life. Finishing her statement, Dugu Fengwu's palm suddenly spat out an extremely powerful mystic qi, which attacked Yang Dingtian's chest. PFFF. A stream of blood suddenly spurted out tens of meters high. Yang Dingtian's body abruptly rose up and immediately fell down without any sound or presence. Dugu Fengwu's delicate body trembled, and her jade-like hands instinctively covered her heart because she suddenly felt a twitch there. She originally thought that her heart would never hurt, but when she struck out her palm at Yang Dingtian, she clearly felt a twitch in her heart and an intense pain. In the end, she still made a move to kill Yang Dingtian. Even though Yang Dingtian had saved her life several times, even though Yang Dingtian had never offended her before. I am leaving, but I will remember you for the rest of my life, Dugu Fengwu said as 2 sparkling teardrops dripped down. She then suddenly turned around and walked towards the metal elements room, vanishing from the 5 elements hall. The vitality left Yang Dingtian's body bit by bit, and his body gradually became cold, very cold. Dugu Fengwu wasn't joking, and she didn't show any mercy. She once heard that Zhu Hongshua's palm strike wasn't able to kill Yang Dingtian. Therefore, she directly placed her palm on Yang Dingtian's chest and spat out her mystic qi. Right at this moment, the 3-headed giant suddenly opened his eyes and bent down to look at Yang Dingtian for a moment. The Five Elements Hall's guest's vitality is fading. The Guardian is attempting the first rescue. The rescue is in progress. That stone giant immediately carried Yang Dingtian and opened up a stone slab in front of his chest, revealing a pool of jade green water. The stone giant placed Yang Dingtian into the pool of water in his chest, and the pool instantly surged with countless white light and drilled into Yang Dingtian's body. These countless white light were like countless vitality, slowly replenishing the vitality that Yang Dingtian had already lost, that he didn't know how much time had passed. It was like a dream, or perhaps it was even deeper than a dream. This was because this was the closest he had been to death, or perhaps he had almost died before. Yang Dingtian felt as though his shattered body and shattered soul were being connected together by countless snow-white energy and fused together. Then his entire body and mind recovered inch by inch. When he finally recovered completely, he suddenly opened his eyes and found himself lying in a pool full of life energy. The memories from before flooded into Yang Dingtian's mind little by little. To be honest, he didn't think that Dugufengwu would actually kill him. On the sea, Dugufengwu didn't really kill him. Along the way, Dugufengwu still didn't kill him. In the Fire Cloud Devil Cave, Dugufengwu still didn't kill him. He thought that when Dugufengwu said that she was going to kill him, it was just words. He thought that Dugufengwu wouldn't kill him anymore. However, reality taught Yang Dingtian a lesson again. Dugufengwu finally made her move, and she pushed Yang Dingtian away before killing him. Dugufengwu, you have taught me a profound lesson. You have made me more aware of evil ways. Yang Dingtian muttered to himself. The next time I see you, I won't be naive anymore. I won't be. Evil ways are evil ways. From today onwards, I won't have any more fantasies about the evil Tao. There will be a day when I become stronger. I will definitely take your life. I definitely will. At this moment, the giant opened up the stone slab in front of its chest. Its giant hand scooped Yang Dingtian out of the pool while muttering to itself. The first rescue is a success. Guest, you may enter cultivation again. After that, it placed Yang Dingtian on the ground and returned to its original position, turning into a sculpture that was a few hundred meters tall. After landing on the ground, Yang Dingtian's body seemed to be filled with surging energy. It was as though he didn't suffer any fatal injuries. He really didn't know what the pool in the giant's chest was. It actually had the effect of reviving someone from the dead. However, Yang Dingtian didn't care about that for now. He only had one thought, and that was to use the Five Elements Hall's secret realm to strengthen himself. Breakthrough, breakthrough, and breakthrough again. Everyone knew that the secret realm was the most mysterious and powerful place in the world. He wanted to see how big of a breakthrough this Five Elements Hall's secret realm could help Yang Dingtian. His goal was to break through rank 15 in the Five Elements Hall and directly become a great mystic martial master. Only by becoming a great mystic martial master would he not be considered an expert. Only then would he be able to cultivate mystic skills and have a qualitative leap. After arriving at the center of the hall, where the mystic chi was the densest, Yang Dingtian sat cross-legged on the ground and started to regulate his breathing again. After he broke through the previous time, he was still doing the breathing and absorbing mystic chi. However, he was interrupted by Dugufengwu. However, this time, Yang Dingtian wasn't just doing the breathing and absorbing mystic chi by himself. He was also hugging his ugly sword and cultivating. From now on, all of his cultivation would be carried out together with the youngling sword. The cultivation of the sword soul would start from now on. Soon, the dense and powerful mystic chi once again surged into Yang Dingtian's body. It passed through his mystic meridians and into his chi vessel. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. 3 hours passed. An entire day passed. Yang Dingtian's empty chi vessel was now completely filled with mystic chi. However, it was different from before. The chi vessel didn't expand or become restless. Instead, it stopped absorbing the mystic chi. This meant that the chi vessel had reached its limit. Yang Dingtian tried again and again, but the chi vessel still didn't have any reaction. The mystic chi that surged into the chi vessel only attacked from the chi vessel and couldn't stop. Yang Dingtian knew that the space in his qi vessel had reached its limit. Therefore, he had to expand the space in his qi vessel. How to expand it was to cultivate martial skills. Normal warriors would cultivate martial skills for 8 hours every day to expand their qi vessel and mystic meridians. Then, they would adjust their breathing and absorb the mystic qi into the expanded qi vessel for 2 hours. This cycle would repeat for half a year, or even a few years before there would be another breakthrough. Cultivating martial skills was to expand the mystic meridians and qi vessel. Adjusting one's breathing was to fill the newly expanded space in the qi vessel and mystic meridians. The two complemented each other. If one wanted to be strong and raise the level of mystic qi, both were indispensable. Therefore, Yang Dingtian needed to cultivate martial skills now. Hopefully, the trial of the 5 elements hall would bring him a surprise. Carrying the 300-pound ugly sword, Yang Dingtian walked into the first room of the metal faction. Here the gravity was 3 times. Whoosh! Yang Dingtian began to brandish the giant sword, and used the 1st to 9th moves of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. The sword in Yang Dingtian's hand originally weighed more than 300 pounds. Under 3 times the gravity, it weighed more than 1,000 pounds. Therefore his movements were at least 10 times slower than usual. The complete set of pig-slaying swordsmanship, that originally required 30 seconds, now required a full 5 minutes. The second time required 4 minutes and 35 seconds. The third time required 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Yang Dingtian continued to practice his sword, crazily practicing his sword. As the sword moves were brandished, the mystic qi in his body surged out like a tide. 10 times, 20 times, 30 times, 100 times, 300 times, 500 times, 1,000 times. After a full 1,000 times, Yang Dingtian's speed of using the 300-pound sword to execute the pig-slaying swordsmanship was exactly the same as normal under 3 times the gravity. In less than a minute, he was able to execute the entire set of pig-slaying swordsmanship. In other words, in the first room, Yang Dingtian's strength had increased by many times. But at this time, a full 2 days and 1 night had passed. The mystic qi in Yang Dingtian's body was also completely exhausted. Moreover, at this time, he already felt that his entire body was no longer his. Dragging his numb and exhausted body, Yang Dingtian walked back to the center of the 5 Elements Palace and sat cross-legged on the ground. Hugging the giant sword, he once again adjusted his breathing and began to absorb mystic qi. Pure mystic qi once again surged in violently. From Yang Dingtian's mystic meridians, it surged into his energy reserve. The empty energy reserve greedily swallowed the mystic qi that was exhausted. Like a desert, no matter how much rain fell, it disappeared without a trace in an instant. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours, a full 5 hours of breathing, 5 hours of devouring profound energy. Finally, the energy reserve once again reached its limit and could no longer absorb even a trace of mystic qi. And this time, even though Yang Dingtian did not have a big breakthrough, he had a small breakthrough. From a 6-star beginner Xian martial warrior, he became a 6-star intermediate Xian martial warrior. Yang Dingtian once again carried the heavy sword and walked into the first room of the Metal Element Palace in high spirits. This time, he did not practice the first stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. Instead, he practiced the second stage of the Yin-Yang Heaven and Earth Sword's 4th move, the all-conquering sword. The key point of the all-conquering sword was not its speed, but the power of the sword. It was called invincible, and now it was 3 times the gravity. The youngling sword in his hand weighed at least 500 kilograms. Therefore, Yang Dingtian had to use most of his mystic qi to support the weight of the youngling sword. Thus, the speed of the youngling sword was not very fast. Kill invincible. Yang Dingtian practiced the all-conquering sword over and over again, from dozens of times, to hundreds of times, to thousands of times. Finally, the power of the sword became stronger and stronger. This time, Yang Dingtian used a full 3 days to exhaust all his mystic qi. He did not know how many times he practiced the all-conquering sword. Perhaps it was already more than 10,000 times. Compared to the beginning, The power of Yang Dingtian's sword had already increased by several times. Once again, he returned to the center of the Five Elements Palace. Yang Dingtian circulated the pig-slaying swordsmanship's mystic qi absorption chant, and once again began to breathe and absorb mystic qi. This time, it was a full 5 hours of breathing and absorbing. However, what disappointed Yang Dingtian was that his mystic qi did not have any breakthrough. Not to mention a big breakthrough. There was not even a small breakthrough. When he first started cultivating in this secret realm, Yang Dingtian only spent a few hours to break through to a 6-star mystic martial warrior. And now 7 to 8 days had already passed, but he had only broken through half a star. In this secret realm, Yang Dingtian's goal was to break through to the great mystic martial master. Therefore, he still needed to break through 15 levels. But according to his current speed, he would only be able to break through half a star in 7 to 8 days. Then he would need at least 8 to 9 months to break through to the great mystic martial master, or even a year. This time was too long. A year later, Yang Dingtian would need to return to Cloud Heaven City to participate in the great martial competition for the position of the city lord. And his greatest opponent would be Shimanju. How powerful was Shimanju? He was at least a martial ancestor realm expert. Yang Dingtian was currently a 6-star mystic martial warrior. Above that was Mystic Martial Master, Great Mystic Martial Master, Martial Mystic Martial Warrior, and Martial Ancestor Realm. In other words, the gap between Yang Dingtian and Shimanju was 4 stages, more than 40 levels. Yang Dingtian needed to cross this gap within a year. He had a total of 3 chances to break through. The first time was in this 5 elements secret realm. He needed to at least break through to the great mystic martial master. The second time was to learn the 3rd stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship. The third time was to find a heaven and earth mystic flame and refine it into his heart flame. This time, there would be a huge breakthrough. Moreover, refining a heaven and earth mystic flame required one to be a martial mystic martial warrior. However, according to his current progress, the time was far from enough. Although breaking through within a year was enough to shock everyone in the world, it was far from enough for Yang Dingtian. If he was only a great mystic martial master, there was no need for him to come to Cloud Heaven City. He would definitely be killed by Shimanju in one move. Hello, Giant. May I ask you a few questions? After finishing the mystic breathing technique, Yang Dingtian did not immediately enter the secret room to train. Instead, he walked in front of the stone giant and asked. The several 100-meter-tall stone giant opened his eyes and said, I can only answer questions that are within my authority. Chapter 165. How long would it take for a 5-star mystic martial warrior to break through to great mystic martial master in the 5 Elements Hall? Yang Dingtian asked. This question is within my authority and can be answered. The stone giant said, for those with high talent 2 years. For those with extreme talent, 1.5 years. 1.5 years? 2 or 3 years? Yang Dingtian couldn't wait that long. Then what kind of talent would I have? Yang Dingtian asked. The stone giant opened his palm and gently placed it on Yang Dingtian's head, then answered, above the extreme. Then with my talent, how long would it take for me to break through to great mystic martial master? Yang Dingtian hurriedly asked. The stone giant calculated for a moment, then said 1 year. 1 year at the fastest? Yang Dingtian said. Yes. The stone giant said. This is the theoretical speed of an extreme mystic vein practitioner. 1 year was too long. Yang Dingtian definitely didn't have that much time. Can it be faster? Yang Dingtian asked. Under normal mode, no. The stone giant said. Then what about under abnormal mode? Yang Dingtian was delighted and hurriedly asked. Also, what is abnormal mode? Abnormal mode is death mode. It's completely similar to actual combat. The practitioner will be injured and die. The stone giant said. If that's the case, how long would it take for me to break through to great mystic martial master? Yang Dingtian asked. For those with extreme talent, if they don't die, it would take half a year. The stone giant said. Half a year? Although it would still make Yang Dingtian's time very tight, He still had half a year to find the third stage of the pig-slaying sword art, and find the heaven and earth mystic flame. There was still a sliver of hope. Then I'll immediately enter abnormal mode, Yang Dingtian said. Are you sure? The stone giant said. Serious warning. If you enter abnormal mode into actual combat, your opponent will definitely not be merciful. You might be injured or die. I'm sure, Yang Dingtian said. Please select the difficulty level of abnormal mode. Normal, medium, extreme and extreme. The stone giant said. If the difficulty level increases by 1 level, the cultivation speed will increase by 5%, but the probability of death will increase by 10%. In the abnormal mode of normal difficulty, he could break through to Great Mystic Martial Master in half a year. According to this calculation, if he chose the extreme difficulty, he might be able to break through to the Great Mystic Martial Master realm in around 5 months. What's the probability of dying in normal difficulty? Yang Dingtian asked. 45%. The stone giant said. Immediately, Yang Dingtian sucked in a deep breath of cold air. If he chose the extreme difficulty, he might be able to break through to Great Mystic Martial Master in a little over 5 months, but the probability of death would rise to a shocking 75%. By the way, what level of cultivation do I need to reach before I can leave the mystery realm of the 5 Elements Palace? Yang Dingtian suddenly thought of the most important question. You have to be at least a 3-star Great Mystic Martial Master before you can leave the 6th Metal Elemental Secret Room without any burden. The stone giant said. Yang Dingtian was astonished. It turned out that breaking through to the Great Mystic Martial Master level wasn't enough. He needed to break through to the 3-star Great Mystic Martial Master level. In that case, it would take even more time. Please choose the trial difficulty. The stone giant reminded again. Yang Dingtian fiercely clenched his teeth and said, Extreme difficulty. The stone giant said mechanically, Extreme difficulty. Your cultivation speed will increase by 15%. Your probability of death will increase by 30%, reaching 75%. Do you still insist on this choice? I insist on this choice, Yang Dingtian said. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed and the stone giant slowly said, The mystery realm of the 5 Elements Palace has increased the trial difficulty to extreme difficulty. Immediately, Yang Dingtian felt a chill run down his spine. It was as if a murderous aura surged from all around him. The so-called combat mode was completely different from the original. Previously, Yang Dingtian was practicing his sword alone. Now he had an opponent. Moreover, it was a powerful and merciless opponent. When he arrived at the entrance of the first secret room, Yang Dingtian suddenly felt a little nervous. He didn't know what kind of opponent he would be facing. Taking a deep breath and calming his nervous emotions, Yang Dingtian gently pushed open the door of the first Metal Elemental Secret Room. Inside, there was an enormous room with 3 times the gravity. It was completely empty. What's going on? Yang Dingtian said in surprise. Yang Dingtian took a step forward and stepped into the first secret room. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed. A stone giant suddenly burst out from the wall and walked down. This was a smaller stone giant. It was about 2 meters tall, but it only had 1 head. It held a hammer in its hand. There's an intruder. Kill the intruder. The stone giant shouted. Then it waved its hammer and rushed over. Yang Dingtian was shocked. It started just like that. Moreover, looking at how agile this stone giant was, it didn't seem to be affected by the gravity at all. Whoosh! The hammer fiercely smashed over. From the strong wind, Yang Dingtian could feel that this stone giant's level was about the same as his. It was about a 6-star Xian martial warrior. However, at this time, Yang Dingtian was dragged down by the 3 times gravity, while the stone giant was completely unaffected. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the blink of an eye, the stone giant had already smashed over a dozen times. Every move was fatal. It really didn't hold back. Yang Dingtian quickly retreated. Now, he had to avoid the stone giant's attack first. However, it was 3 times the gravity here, so Yang Dingtian's retreating speed was 3 times slower than normal. He couldn't avoid it at all. In the blink of an eye, The hammer had already arrived in front of him. Ah! Yang Dingtian quickly raised the youngling's sword and blocked the stone giant's hammer. Bang! A huge force hit, and Yang Dingtian's body flew out more than 10 meters. Puff! A mouthful of blood spurted out. His entire right arm was completely numb after the sharp pain. It was as if there was no feeling at all. The skin above had countless cracks. Damn this secret room. Although the stone giant in front of him was the same as Yang Dingtian, its strength was about a 6-star Xian martial warrior. But the hammer it smashed out was 3 times the strength. This was too deceptive. Yang Dingtian's burden was 3 times heavier, his speed was 3 times slower, and the power of his sword was greatly reduced. Not only was the stone giant not affected by the 3 times gravity, but its strength was also increased by 3 times. No wonder it was an extreme difficulty. This was too extreme. So caught off guard, Yang Dingtian was injured and vomited blood at the beginning. Before Yang Dingtian could wipe off the blood, the stone man rushed up again, and the hammer in his hand became even more ferocious. Yang Dingtian had 2 choices at this time. The first choice was to continue to avoid its sharp killing move. The second choice was to fight with it. A rational person would choose the first one. However, Yang Dingtian chose the second one. Ah! Yang Dingtian roared, and suddenly mobilized all the profound qi in his body. He stood on the ground like a root. Because here was 3 times the gravity, dodging itself had a huge disadvantage. His speed was already 3 times slower. How could he dodge? Looking at the stone giant's hammer, Yang Dingtian held the sword with both hands, aimed at the terrible hammer, and slashed with all his strength. Invincible! Dang! A loud sound rang out, and sparks flew everywhere. Yang Dingtian suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood, his body trembled, and he retreated a few steps. The stone giant did not know fatigue, and the hammer was still crazily smashing. Dang 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 dang. Yang Dingtian used all the strength in his body to block the stone giant's hammer. Every move was the invincible sword. After 30 swords, Yang Dingtian's body was already dripping with blood. He retreated dozens of meters, and the muscles in his hands were almost all split open. The profound qi was completely exhausted at this time. It was too shocking. Previously, when he practiced alone, Yang Dingtian used a full 4 days to exhaust the profound qi in his body. And under the extreme combat mode, in just 30 swords, all of Yang Dingtian's profound qi had been exhausted. Kill the intruder. The stone giant shouted, holding the hammer with both hands, and with the greatest strength, it suddenly smashed down on Yang Dingtian's head. Invincible! Yang Dingtian used the last trace of profound qi, holding the sword with both hands to block. Dang! In an instant, an incomparably powerful force drilled into Yang Dingtian's body, crazily tearing Yang Dingtian's profound veins and his internal organs. In the blink of an eye, Yang Dingtian was about to be fatally injured. And at this moment, a profound qi suddenly gushed out from the young sword to resist the stone giant's power, helping Yang Dingtian to block the fatal injury, even though it was only for a moment. And taking advantage of this moment, Yang Dingtian quickly retreated, directly leaving the first secret room, and returned to the 5 Elements Hall's hall. It was finally safe. As long as he left the range of the secret room, the stone giant would not chase after him. Yang Dingtian came to the center of the hall where the profound qi was the densest. He quickly sat down cross-legged to adjust his breathing, and then took out a medicinal pill from the spatial ring and swallowed it. Ningning's medicinal pill was very powerful. Originally, Yang Dingtian felt that his whole body had already split open and was in incomparable pain. But after taking the medicinal pill, it was as if a warm power gradually spread throughout his body, and that feeling of pain gradually disappeared. After recovering a little, Yang Dingtian immediately hugged the 300-pound young sword in his arms and looked at it in disbelief. It was just a young sword, and it did not have any profound vein essence, nor did it have any sea spirit crystal, so in theory it could not store profound qi. But in that moment, it actually helped Yang Dingtian block the stone giant's fatal attack. And it was only for a moment. This was really too magical. It was just a young sword, but it actually helped its master and saved its master. Even though Yang Dingtian had previously sensed that there was a chaotic divine sense hidden within this youngling sword, he still treated it as a sword. But at this moment, there was a feeling of blood connection. Perhaps it was really not just a sword. Every sword spirit was a life raised by its master. But when this life grew up, it would become incomparably powerful. And the young sword was no doubt like an embryo in the stomach. It had not been born yet, but it was already a life. "You're so ugly, I'll call you Acho from now on, okay?" Yang Dingtian said. The chaotic divine stone inside this ugly young sword seemed to be restless, but Yang Dingtian did not know if it was happy or against this name. "No matter if you like it or not, you'll be called Acho from now on. Wait until the day you truly become a soul sword, then it will be your nirvana," Yang Dingtian said. Then he hugged Acho's young sword and began to absorb profound qi. Now he was already familiar with the process. Incomparably dense profound qi once again crazily poured into Yang Dingtian's profound veins. After filling up all the profound veins in his body, it converged in his sea of qi. The already dried up sea of qi greedily devoured the pure profound qi, continuously devouring. An hour later, his sea of qi suddenly trembled and slightly exploded. With a small breakthrough, he directly broke through 6-star middle-level Xian martial warrior and became a 6-star upper-level Xian martial warrior. His breathing and absorbing profound qi continued. 3 hours later, his profound qi was restless again, and his entire sea of qi suddenly expanded. Boom! A white light flashed in his sea of qi. Yang Dingtian's consciousness instantly went blank, and his profound veins also went blank. Everything in his body entered a temporary standstill. After a full half a minute, everything started to return to normal. Yang Dingtian gradually regained his consciousness, his sea of qi started to surge again, and his profound veins started to flow again. He actually broke through again. Yang Dingtian felt all this in disbelief. He actually directly broke through 7-star Xian martial warrior. Previously, he only broke through half a star after 7 or 8 days. And after entering the extreme difficulty of the actual combat trial, he actually broke through the remaining half a star in less than half an hour, allowing Yang Dingtian to directly enter 7-star Xian martial warrior. This secret realm was really full of bizarre things. After the surprise, Yang Dingtian continued to absorb profound qi. At this time, his profound veins and sea of qi once again entered a state of emptiness and crazily absorbed profound qi again. This time, after a full 4 hours, his profound veins and sea of qi were completely filled with profound qi, and his entire body once again recovered surging energy. However, after his sea of qi had reached its limit, it only trembled slightly and did not expand again, nor did it break through again. However, Yang Dingtian was already very satisfied. Standing up from the ground, Yang Dingtian tightly grasped the youngling sword in his hand and said, "We're going to fight again. This time, I want to see if that stone man can still beat us into such a sorry state and almost kill us under his hammer." At this time, nearly 10 hours had passed since Yang Dingtian was beaten half to death by the stone man. Yang Dingtian carried the 300-pound youngling sword, retreated from the door, and once again entered the first Gold Series door. Intruder, kill without mercy. After a shout, the stone man suddenly split open from the wall, jumped down, and then ferociously rushed towards Yang Dingtian. That huge hammer swung over like a bolt of lightning. Yang Dingtian suddenly raised the heavy sword in his hand and met the stone man's huge hammer head-on. He discovered that this 1,000-pound youngling sword was actually a lot lighter in his hand. Clang! A loud sound resounded. The heavy sword and the huge hammer fiercely collided, and immediately sparks flew in all directions. Yang Dingtian's body shook, and his arm went numb. But that was all. Previously, Yang Dingtian was directly sent flying, and blood was violently spurting out. And now it was merely a shock. And that stone man also shook fiercely, and slightly staggered for a while. In this short confrontation, Yang Dingtian actually gained the upper hand. He was immediately pleasantly surprised. After breaking through to 7-star Xian martial warrior, his power was indeed extraordinary. Immediately after, without any hesitation, the heavy sword in his hand continued to fiercely chop down. Invincible! 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 From beginning to end, Yang Dingtian only used this move and crazily chopped at the stone man. His power was getting stronger and stronger, and his momentum was getting fiercer and fiercer. Finally, this stone man couldn't resist Yang Dingtian's momentum and began to retreat. Break! Yang Dingtian suddenly roared, using all his power, aimed at the stone man's huge hammer, and fiercely chopped it down. Bang! Suddenly, that huge hammer made of an unknown material suddenly shattered. Pig-killing swordsmanship, chopping off the limbs. Yang Dingtian's sword was like lightning, and directly cut off the stone man's legs and feet. Bang! The stone man whose limbs were broken suddenly smashed to the ground. Pig-killing swordsmanship, chopping off the head. Yang Dingtian chopped down with his sword, and suddenly the stone man's incomparably hard head flew out dozens of meters away. Walala! At the same time, the stone man's body suddenly shattered into powder, and a gust of wind blew. The stone man's powder, as well as the weapon's powder, was blown away cleanly and disappeared without a trace. Breaking through to 7-star Xian martial warrior was indeed powerful. Yang Dingtian directly turned defeat into victory and directly eliminated this stone man. There was no doubt that the first secret room trial of the metal room was over. After smashing the stone giant, Yang Dingtian still had more than half of his profound qi left in his body. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian slowly retreated to the second door. The second door, 9 times the gravity. He didn't know what kind of powerful boss would be inside. Chapter 166. Yang Dingtian had finally gotten used to the first secret room. Now, on the basis of the first secret room, Yang Dingtian's strength and speed had been weakened by 3 times. Therefore, compared to the first secret room, Yang Dingtian's strength had been weakened by at least 5 times. Then, it all depended on how powerful the second secret room's interloper was. Yang Dingtian suppressed his nervousness, took a deep breath, and stepped into the second secret room. Huff! Suddenly, Yang Dingtian felt a pain in his chest. Even breathing was painful. The youngling sword in his hand weighed at least 3,000 pounds. Whoosh! From the wall, a silver metal man suddenly split open. He held a giant sword in his hand and shot out from the wall, rushing towards Yang Dingtian, like a bolt of lightning. Intruder die! With a sharp roar, the silver metal man's huge sword slashed toward Yang Dingtian. Indestructible! Yang Dingtian raised the youngling sword in his hand and blocked the metal man's attack with both hands. Bang! There was a loud noise. Buffed! Yang Dingtian spat out a mouthful of blood. His whole body flew 100 meters away like a straw. The muscles in his arms and chest were torn apart inch by inch. Even the Xian meridians in his whole body had countless cracks. Yang Dingtian's body flew out of the second secret room, flew through the first secret room, and directly fell into the Hall of the 5 Elements Hall. His life was uncertain, and his body was badly mutilated. Just once. Yang Dingtian was killed by a level 2 metal boss in an instant. At this time, Yang Dingtian had completely fainted. If he was conscious, he would definitely be amazed. He had imagined that the second secret room's interloper would be very powerful, but he did not expect it to be so powerful. It was like a thunderbolt that killed him in an instant. The 100-meter-tall giant in the center of the hall slowly opened its eyes and grabbed Yang Dingtian, whose life was uncertain. The trial taker has been injured for the second time. Assessing the trial taker's life force. Trial takers are still alive. There is value in saving them. Then, the 3-headed giant opened up the stone slab on its chest, revealing the green pool once again. It picked up Yang Dingtian and placed him in the pool. This time, Yang Dingtian only had to recuperate in the pool for 5 hours before his injuries were fully recovered. Even though his injuries looked frightening, they were much weaker than Dugu Fengwu's shocking attack. Therefore, he only needed 5 hours to recuperate in the green pond. Thank you, big giant. Yang Dingtian said to the 3-headed giant after being placed on the ground again. The 3-headed giant did not answer him. Instead, It closed its eyes again and returned to its original posture. It remained motionless like a statue. Yang Dingtian hugged Ah Chao's youngling sword, and once again came to the center of the main hall, and once again entered the mystical energy absorption. The profound energy was still as dense and pure as ever, and it continued to flow into his body. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 5 hours later, Yang Dingtian's sea of energy trembled violently. He had another small breakthrough, and directly became a mid-grade 7-star mystic martial warrior. Carrying Ah Chao's youngling sword, Yang Dingtian once again stepped into the metal elemental secret training room. He knew that there was a tiger in the mountain, but he still walked towards it. Just now, Yang Dingtian was killed in an instant. This time, Yang Dingtian went to challenge the second metal elemental secret training room. After passing through the first secret training room, he came to the second door and pushed it open. Yang Dingtian did not immediately take a step forward. The shocking attack from the silver metal man had left a lingering fear in Yang Dingtian's heart. It was an instant kill. He circulated all the profound energy in his body and condensed it on Ah Chao's youngling sword. I am ready, Yang Dingtian thought to himself. Then, he gripped the heavy sword in his hand tightly and walked in. Whoosh! The silver metal man was like a bolt of lightning as it charged towards Yang Dingtian. The huge sword in its hand was as heavy as a mountain as it slashed towards Yang Dingtian's head. Just in time, Yang Dingtian roared. He held Ah Chao's huge sword with both hands and used all his strength to block the attack. Bang! A loud sound was heard. Puff! Yang Dingtian spat out blood. He was sent flying hundreds of meters away like a straw. He flew out of 2 secret training rooms and crashed into the main hall of the 5 Elements Palace. However, he was slightly better this time. He did not pass out completely. However, this was even more painful. Yang Dingtian could clearly feel the pain of his entire body being torn apart. The 3-headed giant opened its eyes again. The participant is injured for the 3rd time. The participant's vital energy is normal. He can be saved. Then, Yang Dingtian was placed into the green pool on the 3-headed giant's chest again. This time, Yang Dingtian only needed to soak in the green pool for 2 hours before his injuries were mostly healed. After being placed back on the ground by the 3-headed giant, Yang Dingtian went to the center of the main hall again. He held Ah Chao's youngling sword and breathed in and out. Actually, more than half of the celestial qi in his body had not been used up. However, he wanted to see if there would be a breakthrough in his celestial qi. However, the result disappointed Yang Dingtian. After only an hour, Yang Dingtian's energy reserve had reached its limit. There was no breakthrough at all. In other words, if he went to the second secret training room and encountered the silver metal man, he would still be killed instantly. There would be no change. After all, Yang Dingtian had used up all his strength to block the attack just now. There was no way he could increase his strength any further. Yang Dingtian did not enter the second secret training room. He was not afraid of failure. He also did not lack the perseverance to continue to fight even after repeated failures. However, he would not do anything for nothing. The result of entering the second secret training room was still to be killed instantly. Then, he would have to enter the green pool to recuperate. Yang Dingtian could endure the pain of his body being torn apart inch by inch. However, it was meaningless. His celestial qi would not have any breakthrough. It would only be a waste of time. He had to make a change. If this continued, it would only be a waste of time. Yang Dingtian held Ah Chao's youngling sword and walked around the hall slowly. His gaze fell on the doors of the other colors. Yang Dingtian suddenly slapped his head. Oh my god, I'm so stupid, Yang Dingtian said in confusion. He could have gone to the first secret training room of the other elements. Why did he have to go against the metal element? There were still the fire element, ice element, lightning element, and wind element left. Although these secret training rooms would not be easy to pass, no matter how powerful the first secret training room was, it would still be better than the second secret training room of the metal element. He would not be killed instantly, right? He would also have a breakthrough in the other element's secret training rooms. When he had broken through to a certain level, he would go back and kill that ridiculously powerful metal man. After deciding on his plan, the next step was to choose a secret training room of the element to train in. There was no doubt that the lightning element was the strangest and scariest. However, in a real battle, the lightning element was also the least practical, because it was basically impossible to meet a lightning element opponent. In this world, lightning element demonic beasts were extremely rare, and lightning element experts were even rarer. It was completely impossible to meet one. The world's Xian veins were divided into yin and yang. There was no third type. Everyone's Xian veins were either yin or yang. After yin and yang, there were 5 elements: fire, wind, metal, ice, lightning. Fire element directly targeted the yang Xian veins. Ice element directly targeted the yin Xian veins. The remaining wind and metal elements were very complicated. Basically, a person with yang Xian veins could derive the metal element. A person with yin Xian veins could derive the wind element. However, this was not absolute. There were very few exceptions. As for the lightning element, it was extremely mysterious and rare. There was no pattern at all. Just as rare as the lightning element, there was also the darkness and mental element. No matter if it was the lightning element, darkness element, or mental element, it was 1 in a billion. Shiman Ningning belonged to the mental element. Previously, outside the abandoned mine, she directly used the mental element mystic skill to imprison 4 powerful enemies. At that time, Yang Dingtian was only surprised. He didn't feel that it was that heaven-defying. At this moment, he was completely aware of how mysterious and terrifying Shiman Ningning's mental element mystic skill was, and how rare it was. Therefore, Shiman Ningning was definitely not as simple as Shiman Wuya's adopted daughter. The secret behind her was enough to shock the world. Her true identity might also shock everyone. Back to the main topic. Yang Dingtian had to choose an element as his second cultivation room. Ice element. Yang Dingtian had the most advantage, because he had the 9 yang Xian veins. But perhaps because of this advantage, it was not easy for him to have a big breakthrough. Fire element. Yang Dingtian had the least advantage. Lightning element too strange. In actual combat, it was not very useful. Therefore, Yang Dingtian chose the wind element, hoping that the wind element trial would surprise him. Arriving in front of the door of the wind training room, the wind element door seemed to be a faint gray, but also seemed to be colorless. He gently pushed open the wind element door and walked into the first secret room of the wind element. Even though this was only the first secret room of the wind element, Yang Dingtian was still very careful. After all, this was the mysterious and powerful 5 elements hall secret realm. But after walking in, Yang Dingtian was surprised to find that there was no warning, and no stone man jumped down from the stone wall to kill him. The surroundings were still quiet, and there was no change. Yang Dingtian opened his eyes wide, waiting for the fatal killing intent to appear. But after waiting for half a minute, there was still no reaction. What's going on? Yang Dingtian said in shock. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Suddenly, a powerful blade crazily cut Yang Dingtian's body. The speed was incomparably fast, so fast that Yang Dingtian had no chance to defend. In an instant, dozens of bloody wounds appeared on Yang Dingtian's body. Fortunately, he was wearing the deep-sea dazzling clothes, otherwise, his entire chest would have been cut open. Moreover, Yang Dingtian still did not discover the enemy's figure, because it was completely invisible. Even its weapon was invisible. Enduring the severe pain all over his body, Yang Dingtian raised his youngling sword and fiercely slashed. However, these few slashes were completely in the air. The enemy teleported and dodged Yang Dingtian's sword. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Several fierce slashes directly cut Yang Dingtian's back. Yang Dingtian did not have enough time to turn around. The youngling's sword in his hand suddenly stabbed his back. Ha ha ha. A burst of strange laughter. Yang Dingtian's sword missed again. The enemy disappeared without a trace again. In this cycle, Yang Dingtian's body was cut at least 100 times. But he still did not stab the enemy. Even his own sword did not touch the enemy. This was an invisible enemy, a wind-like enemy, whose speed was extremely fast. The only thing that was slightly better was that the lethality of his blade was not as astonishing as the metal-type secret room. Otherwise, Yang Dingtian would not be alive right now. But even so, Yang Dingtian was completely mutilated at this time. He was completely flustered and exasperated. For a few hours, Yang Dingtian was completely beaten. He did not even touch a corner of the enemy's clothes. He did not even see the enemy's appearance. Originally, he thought that the first secret training room would not be difficult, but he did not expect it to be so abnormally difficult. After 5 hours, except for the part protected by the deep-sea Xian clothes, Yang Dingtian did not have an inch of good flesh on his body. Every part of his body was riddled with scars. In these 5 hours, Yang Dingtian brandished no less than 10,000 swords, but not a single sword was able to hit the enemy. Yin Yang Heaven and Earth Sword's invisible sword completely countered the wind, but still did not stab the enemy. At this time, Yang Dingtian's internal force had been completely exhausted. Full of anger and unwillingness, Yang Dingtian left the wind-type first training room. Then, he was quickly placed in the green pool in front of the three-headed giant's chest to heal his wounds. This time, because it was only a superficial wound, Yang Dingtian's injuries were almost healed in just 2 hours. After returning to the ground, Yang Dingtian once again went to the center of the zero-gravity hall and began a new round of mysterious breathing technique. He was looking forward to whether there would be a breakthrough this time. Chapter 167. But the result disappointed him once again. There was no breakthrough in his internal force. Not even the slightest bit of breakthrough. Yang Dingtian immediately sat on the ground dejectedly. Where did he go wrong? He had already avoided the metal-type level 2 boss. But facing the wind-type level 1 boss, he was actually completely helpless, completely taking a beating. What should he do? How can he break through? Yang Dingtian racked his brains, sinking into deep pain. "Acho, what do you think I should do?" Yang Dingtian said to the youngling sword in his arms. Acho was quietly in Yang Dingtian's hands. As if it felt Yang Dingtian's pain, it also did not make a sound. Of course, Yang Dingtian could also choose other types of secret rooms to try, such as the ice-type secret room that he had the most advantage in. But just now he temporarily gave up on the metal-type second secret room and chose the wind-type first secret room to try it out. It could be said to be a strategy. But if he were to change now, it would definitely be a form of cowardice. Yang Dingtian would definitely not do that. There must be a way, there must be. Even under extreme difficulty, there must be a way to break through. Otherwise there would be no meaning for this secret realm to exist. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian had a flash of thought. He realized that his brain was too rigid before. He only knew that all-conquering sword corresponded to the metal-type secret room. Invisible sword corresponded to the wind-type secret room. Actually, they could completely complement each other. For example, in the wind-type secret room just now, Yang Dingtian's invisible sword was always one step slower than that invisible assassin, continuously stabbing out tens of thousands of times, but still not stabbing the opponent once. It was very obvious that his speed was not enough. Then where could he train his speed? Without a doubt, it was in the metal-type secret room with high gravity. Connecting with invisible sword under high gravity, it would definitely allow him to train his sword speed even faster. Thinking of this point, Yang Dingtian suddenly jumped up from the ground cheering. Then he directly grabbed Ah Chao's youngling sword and once again walked towards the metal-type first secret room. Originally Yang Dingtian walked in very easily, because the stone man inside had already been destroyed by Yang Dingtian. But the moment he stepped in, a stone man suddenly split open from the wall, waving a giant metal hammer, fiercely smashing towards Yang Dingtian. Intruder discovered, kill without mercy. It was still the same stone man as before. Yang Dingtian immediately cried out in shock. Didn't he already destroy this stone man? Why did it appear again? Could it be that after he returned from the other secret rooms, the metal-type secret room had once again activated the trial program, causing the stone golem to appear again? Caught off guard, the stone man's hammer had already arrived in front of him. Yang Dingtian quickly raised his heavy sword and was about to execute the all-conquering sword. Because all-conquering sword is to counter this stone man, it can easily kill him. But soon Yang Dingtian changed his mind. Since he wanted to practice the invisible sword, he might as well practice it until the end. Although invisible sword's speed is fast, but the strength of the sword is too much. Bang! Under 3 times the gravity, Yang Dingtian's invisible sword was already a lot slower, but it was still fast enough, easily blocking the stone man's hammer. With a loud sound, Yang Dingtian's body suddenly staggered back a dozen steps. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Facing the stone man, invisible sword's speed is indeed fast, but its power is completely insufficient. Before Yang Dingtian had time to sigh, the stone man once again waved its giant hammer and rushed forward. Invisible sword. Yang Dingtian's figure flashed. The sharp sword in his hand suddenly pierced out. Ooh! Yang Dingtian only felt pain on his face. The stone man's hammer directly scraped past his face, although it did not directly graze. But the wind that scraped past was still as painful as a knife. Dang! At the same time, Yang Dingtian's invisible sword quickly pierced the stone man's chest. Immediately, rocks flew everywhere. Invisible sword is invisible sword, even under 3 times the gravity, even if the treasured sword in his hand became 1,000 jin. But Yang Dingtian was still able to dodge the stone man's attack. The treasured sword in his hand could still pierce the stone man's body. For the all-conquering sword, this is completely impossible. Next, Yang Dingtian began to use invisible sword countless times. Suddenly, his movement became faster and faster. The sword moves became faster and faster. Yang Dingtian's figure was completely like a shadow, shuttling back and forth in the secret room. And that stone man was completely unable to catch up to Yang Dingtian. His hammer was completely unable to catch up to Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian's invisible sword stabbed him countless times. Dozens of times, hundreds of times, thousands of times. 5 hours later, this stone man was completely riddled with holes. From head to toe, not an inch of his body was intact. All the scars left behind by Yang Dingtian's invisible sword, some deep holes, and some deep slash marks. But compared to the all-conquering sword, invisible sword's lethality was simply too weak. So even after thousands of hits, the stone man was still unable to be completely destroyed. And at this moment, Yang Dingtian's profound qi was almost completely exhausted. The current him should have retreated to the center of the hall to continue the profound qi breathing. But he was somewhat unwilling. The stone man was going to be finished soon. If the last sword can't kill it, then forget it. Yang Dingtian secretly said in his heart. Then, the treasured sword in his hand turned, his figure flashed, and quickly circled around the stone man. The sword in his hand, like a poisonous snake, fiercely slashed down towards the stone man's neck. This was also invisible sword. After using invisible sword countless times, Yang Dingtian already had a completely different understanding of this move, so the sword moves were also very different from before. It was still the essence of invisible sword, but the moves were completely at his will. Huff! After using this last invisible sword, Yang Dingtian's figure rapidly retreated and directly pushed to the door of the secret room, because at this moment, the profound qi in his body was already completely exhausted. Not even a little bit was left. Walala! After the stone man was slashed by Yang Dingtian's last invisible sword, it first stood motionless on the spot. Then his head rolled to the ground. Bang! Then, its headless body fell to the ground, smashed into pieces, and directly turned into powder. A gust of wind blew past, blowing the powder on the ground clean. Yang Dingtian destroyed the stone man, even though he used invisible sword, but he still destroyed the stone man. And at this moment, his entire body no longer had the slightest bit of strength. Even walking to the center of the 5 elements hall was extremely strenuous. Finally arriving at the place with the densest profound qi, Yang Dingtian sat down to regulate his breathing, hugged Da Chao's youngling sword, and began the profound qi breathing. Endless profound qi, almost crazily, poured into Yang Dingtian's profound veins like a tide. Yang Dingtian's completely dried up profound veins were instantly moistened. It was as if countless dried-up rivers were instantly filled with water. Then this water flowed to the sea. Yang Dingtian's qi sea was also filled little by little. 6 hours later, Yang Dingtian's qi sea completely reached its limit. It was filled with the purest and most condensed profound qi. Then his body began to stop absorbing profound qi. This meant that there was no breakthrough. Yang Dingtian couldn't help but feel disappointed in his heart. But immediately, his qi sea suddenly jumped. It began to stir restless. Then, the profound qi that had already stopped began to crazily pour in, even more turbulent than before. It instantly swelled the profound veins, swelled the qi sea. The qi sea continued to swell and expand. It swelled to the extreme. Bang! A white light flashed. Yang Dingtian broke through again. Everything stopped. Even Yang Dingtian's divine sense also temporarily stopped. Yang Dingtian's profound veins and qi sea entered a temporary nothingness. After a few seconds, everything gradually returned to normal. Yang Dingtian's consciousness gradually recovered. Yang Dingtian's profound veins and qi sea also gradually recovered. Yang Dingtian directly skipped 7 stars, directly broke through 8 stars, and became an 8-star elementary Xian martial warrior. Yang Dingtian discovered that every time he destroyed the obstructo, his profound veins would have a huge breakthrough. Yang Dingtian used all-conquering sword and invisible sword to destroy the stone man. Every time his profound qi had a huge breakthrough. Next, it was time for him to use invisible sword to go to the wind attribute secret room and kill that invisible obstructor. But this time, Yang Dingtian didn't immediately enter the secret room to train. He needed to sleep. He didn't know how many times he hadn't slept. It had been at least 10 days. It's just that before, he always treated recuperating in the green pond as sleeping time. In reality, his body and mind didn't get enough rest at that time. And the time was also relatively short. Hugging Ah Cho, Yang Dingtian slept for close to 10 hours before waking up. After waking up, Yang Dingtian felt that his whole body's spirit was unprecedentedly strong. Holding Ah Cho, Yang Dingtian once again entered the wind attribute secret room. After pushing open the door, Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and stepped in. After entering, he immediately closed his eyes and used his whole body and mind to sense that obstructor. Swoosh! Sure enough, she came. Her blade hadn't hit Yang Dingtian yet, but a chill had already attacked in advance. Yang Dingtian quickly backhanded his sword. Clang! Yang Dingtian blocked her blade in advance. Then he suddenly rushed forward. The sharp sword in his hand quickly stabbed towards the back of that blade. Yang Dingtian's sword was already very fast, compared to the metal attribute secret room. Who knows how many times faster? But it was still too late. That invisible obstructor really floated away like a gust of wind, and completely disappeared from Yang Dingtian's sense of touch. Yang Dingtian wasn't anxious. He still closed his eyes, waiting for her to attack again. Sure enough, only half a minute later, Yang Dingtian only felt a chill in his crotch. That invisible and terrifying sharp blade actually sliced towards its lower body. Yang Dingtian's sword, like lightning, fiercely stabbed towards the ground. Ah! A sharp miserable cry. On the ground, a woman's figure directly appeared. Yang Dingtian stabbed her. But at the same time, Yang Dingtian's leg was also fiercely slashed, less than an inch away from his vital point. This was a naked woman, her long hair reaching her waist. Of course, she wasn't a real woman, she was just a shadow. However, this shadow could kill and also be injured, just like a woman of pure energy. Huff! After being injured, this woman suddenly turned into a gray shadow, like a gust of wind, flew away from Yang Dingtian's body, and instantly disappeared without a trace. The entire chamber fell into silence once again, as the invisible woman disappeared once again. Yang Dingtian continued to close his eyes, waiting for her to attack again. Half a minute passed. 1 minute passed. 5 minutes passed. This invisible wind woman still didn't make a move, as if competing to see who was more patient. Finally, the invisible wind woman couldn't bear it anymore. Yang Dingtian suddenly felt a chill on his neck. She attacked. This time her target was Yang Dingtian's neck. She wanted to directly give Yang Dingtian a fatal blow. Yang Dingtian had just felt the chill on his neck, and in an instant, the sharp blade would slash at Yang Dingtian's neck. The sharp sword in Yang Dingtian's hand thrust out rapidly, and was about to deflect the incoming long sword. But immediately after, he felt that something was wrong, because the time from when he felt the chill to when the sharp blade slashed at him was a little too long, almost exceeding 0.1 seconds. The invisible wind woman's speed was very fast. It was absolutely impossible for her to take so long. Then, there was only one possibility. This sly invisible wind woman was creating a diversion. And at this moment, Yang Dingtian felt a slight fluctuation of energy behind him. It was extremely faint, as if he couldn't feel it at all. Yang Dingtian completely ignored the sharp blade in front of him, and fiercely slashed with his sword. Ah! Behind him, there was an ear-piercing scream. Sure enough, this demoness used the flying blade in her hand to throw it out, and then let it fly back to Yang Dingtian's neck, pretending that she was the one who slashed at Yang Dingtian's neck. In fact, she had already circled behind Yang Dingtian, preparing to deal a fatal blow to Yang Dingtian. After Yang Dingtian felt that something was strange, he didn't hesitate and directly slashed with his sword. Sure enough, this invisible wind woman was directly pierced through. She revealed a demonic and sinister face. At this moment, her 10 sharp and terrifying nails were about to pierce into Yang Dingtian's head. After being stabbed by Yang Dingtian, she immediately turned into a gust of wind to escape. But how could Yang Dingtian give her the chance to do so? He allowed the sharp blade to slash at his back. The sword in his hand revolved and stabbed out like lightning. It was still the formless sword, but it completely surrounded the invisible wind woman. Using the formless sword, he used the fastest speed to surround the invisible wind woman, making it impossible for her to escape. Instantly, this invisible wind woman was like a ghost trapped by an array, desperately charging left and right, frantically trying to escape. Her speed was really fast, like a gust of wind, as if she could slip away from any corner at any time. Yang Dingtian's sword was also very fast, completely using up all of his mystic qi, crazily revolving around the invisible wind woman. While surrounding and circling, he was also crazily slashing at her. Formless sword, formless sword, formless sword. Hundreds of formless sword, thousands of formless sword, thousands of formless sword. Ah! The invisible wind girl suddenly let out a series of miserable shrieks. She struggled with all her might, desperately trying to escape. But after being injured, her speed became slower and slower, and she was still surrounded by Yang Dingtian's sword. Chapter 168. As Yang Dingtian slashed with his sword, the invisible wind lady's figure became fainter and fainter. In the end, she seemed to be on the verge of collapse, and was about to completely disappear. At most, I have 10 more strikes to finish you, Yang Dingtian thought to himself. Whoosh 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 whoosh. Almost instantaneously, Yang Dingtian stabbed 9 times consecutively. The invisible wind lady could no longer make a sound. Her figure was so faint that it was almost completely invisible. There was only 1 strike left. He could destroy this invisible wind lady. And Yang Dingtian was just about to exhaust all of his Xian Qi. But at this moment, an unforeseen event occurred. The eyes of the invisible wind lady, who was about to disappear, suddenly lit up. Her beautiful face turned sinister and ferocious. Die, die, let's perish together, the invisible wind lady said sternly. Then, she suddenly condensed into a dark ray of light. It was only a foot long, and like a malicious spirit, it suddenly drilled into Yang Dingtian's forehead. This invisible wind lady had actually chosen to perish together with Yang Dingtian. The divine melody, which was about to disappear, had completely condensed into a small ball. Therefore, its impact and lethality were extremely strong. If it drilled into his brain, the consequences would be unimaginable. Yang Dingtian instinctively wanted to use the invisible sword, but in the midst of lightning and thunder, he used up the last of his Xian Qi and slashed out with the hell-splitting sword. It was the hell-splitting sword that he had never used before. He was worried that the invisible sword would not be able to completely destroy this light. The hell-splitting sword emitted a dark and sharp light. It suddenly rotated and twisted into the light ball formed by the invisible wind lady. Suddenly the light ball shattered. Ah! It let out a final miserable cry before exploding into countless rays of light, and then it was instantly obliterated and vanished without a trace. And at this moment, Yang Dingtian's Xianqi had been completely used up again. He used the yin-yang heaven and earth sword again to destroy the second immortal realm cultivator of the Five Elements Hall. Furthermore, he no longer stubbornly insisted on using a certain sword technique to kill a certain type of cultivator. Once again, Yang Dingtian dragged his exhausted body to the center of the Five Elements Hall. Once again, he sat down to adjust his breathing and absorb Xianqi. It was still an incomparably familiar feeling. Endless Xianqi crazily surged into his Xian veins, nourishing Yang Dingtian's blood vessels. It made him feel as if his body was expanding. With that, countless profound energy flowed through his profound veins and into his energy sea. After the profound qi entered the qi sea, it would automatically condense. The originally large ball would condense into a small ball in the qi sea. Just like that, Xianqi continuously condensed and condensed and condensed. After 10 hours, his energy sea of the Xianqi of qi had reached Xian's. Yang Dingtian's heart immediately became apprehensive. He didn't know if there would be a breakthrough this time, even if it was just a small breakthrough. And Xian's of his. 2 of Xian, everything's time. Xian next stage. This time, he skipped the middle 8th rank and the upper 8th rank and charged straight into the 9th rank mystic martial warrior. Xian stage was only one step away from Xian martial master. The Five Elements Hall's secret realm was too mysterious. If your cultivation method was wrong, you might not be able to break through for a few days, even if you were seriously injured and almost died. But as long as your cultivation method was correct, everything would be fine. The final result would be far beyond your imagination. Yang Dingtian did not enter the second secret room of the wind element. He knew that he would be courting death. He didn't enter the second metal element room to cultivate. Currently, the metal man in the second metal element room might not be able to instantly kill Yang Dingtian, but there was still a huge disparity in their combat strength. It would be a waste of time to enter the second metal element room. Yang Dingtian decided to change to the secret rooms of other elements. He chose the fire element. He pushed open the door of the fire element's first secret room. He did not know what the cultivator in the fire element's secret room would be. Yang Dingtian took a deep breath and took a step forward. In an instant, the terrifying high temperature was about to push Yang Dingtian out. The entire secret room was covered in a fiery red color. It was as if every inch of the room was burned red. Yang Dingtian hurriedly circulated his mystic qi to protect his body from the high temperature, which was over 100 degrees Celsius. Whoosh! Suddenly, a monster burst out of the wall. Its body was pitch black, but it was burning with raging flames. It was like a human standing straight, but its feet were hooves. However, its hands were like a human's. It had a face that looked like a human and a bat, and 2 horns on its head. This was a fiery yiksha. Yang Dingtian knew this kind of monster. It was one of the many monsters that looked like humans. It was also the most vicious and cunning of them all. Human, welcome. Your heart must be very delicious. I will taste it later. The yiksha swung its weapon and sneered at Yang Dingtian. His weapon was a whip. It was as flexible and vicious as a poisonous tongue. It was dozens of meters long and could reach every corner of the secret room. When the yiksha was dozens of meters away from Yang Dingtian, the flame snake whip in its hand suddenly lashed out. The long whip was like a part of its body, incomparably flexible. When the flame whip reached the top of Yang Dingtian's head, it burned fiercely and then quickly circled. Suddenly, the top of Yang Dingtian's head was filled with green demon fire. The temperature of the entire secret room instantly increased by countless times. Burning heaven sword, Yang Dingtian swung the heavy sword in his hand, and a red flame burst out. Then the sword in his hand also quickly circled. Suddenly, a red flame wrapped Yang Dingtian's body, resisting the yiksha's green demon fire. The yiksha's whip suddenly pressed down, and the green demon fire vortex also pressed down. It was filled with a strong devouring power, and wanted to directly swallow Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian quickly brandished his huge sword, and used the burning heaven sword again and again. Red flames jumped out, and it was the Hell Yiksha's demon fire vortex. This red flame was completely formed by Yang Dingtian's profound qi. Therefore, this was undoubtedly the most exhausting profound qi fighting method. Although this kind of flame's consumption of profound qi was not as high as profound skills, it was dozens of times higher than ordinary martial skills. The two flame vortexes fiercely fought against each other, and the temperature around Yang Dingtian became higher and higher. From dozens of degrees to hundreds of degrees, to hundreds of degrees, to thousands of degrees. The red flames that erupted from the burning heaven sword firmly protected Yang Dingtian's entire body. At the same time, Yang Dingtian also needed to separate a portion of profound qi to protect himself from the high temperature. So the profound qi in his body really surged out like a tide, and was quickly consumed. On the other hand, the Yiksha was completely different. It was a fire-type demon beast. Using profound qi to turn into flames was its instinct, so the profound qi consumed by each flame was only a fraction of Yang Dingtian's. Moreover, it was not afraid of high temperature and flames, and even greedily enjoyed them. Therefore, although this Yiksha's profound qi level was slightly lower than Yang Dingtian's, however, the battle situation was indeed that Yang Dingtian had fallen into an absolute disadvantage. In this way, Yang Dingtian and the Yiksha engaged in the most direct profound qi competition. Just half an hour later, Yang Dingtian's mystic qi was almost completely depleted, but Yiksha's qi was still as light as before. Gradually, the flames formed by Yang Dingtian's profound qi became smaller and smaller, gradually unable to protect Yang Dingtian's entire body. The high temperature fiercely attacked, and the surface temperature of Yang Dingtian's body rapidly increased to hundreds of degrees. 200 degrees. No, he had to think of another way. It just so happened that his profound qi was completely exhausted. Yang Dingtian's feet touched the ground, and he quickly retreated, wanting to immediately withdraw from the secret room. But how could the Yiksha allow Yang Dingtian to escape so easily? The long whip in its hand was like a viper, fiercely and quickly wrapping around Yang Dingtian's neck. Pig-slaying swordsmanship, a sword to the throat. Yang Dingtian backhanded his sword, directly stabbing into the middle of the circle formed by the flaming poisonous tongue whip. Pig-slaying swordsmanship, cleaning the stomach. The heavy sword in his hand quickly stirred, and suddenly all the flaming poisonous tongue whip were entangled. Taking the opportunity, Yang Dingtian quickly rushed out of the secret room. But at this time, the flaming poisonous snake whip entangled by the heavy sword suddenly extended, as if it was alive, more than 10 meters long, aiming at Yang Dingtian's back, and suddenly licked. Yang Dingtian exhausted the last of his profound qi, and rushed out like flying. Bang! There was a sharp pain on his back, and the flaming poisonous tongue whip still fiercely whipped Yang Dingtian's back, directly to his neck. Yang Dingtian's body directly flew out, and there was a deep wound on the back of his neck. Damn it! No matter which one of the assassins in this secret room, they were all so powerful, so abnormal. In their own plane, they completely had the advantage. The three-headed giant appeared again, and carried Yang Dingtian into the green pool in its arms to recuperate. This time, Yang Dingtian's injury was light, so he only stayed for less than half an hour, and was already healed. After being put on the ground, Yang Dingtian went to the center of the hall, where the profound qi was the densest, and began to absorb profound qi. The result was exactly the same as he imagined. There was no growth in his profound qi, and no breakthrough. In this secret realm, there would be no breakthrough at all if he was passively beaten. After completely recovering his profound qi, Yang Dingtian did not hesitate, and directly walked towards the Ice Element secret training room. That's right, he was cultivating the Burning Heaven sword in the Ice Element secret training room. Without a doubt, in the Ice Element secret room, the power of the Burning Heaven sword would be greatly weakened. In this incomparably harsh environment, the power of the Burning Heaven sword would continue to grow. Hiss! After retreating from the ice element secret room's door, young Dingtian had just taken a step forward when his entire body shivered. It was so cold. The entire secret room was snow white, and there was no concept of space. It was snow white everywhere, and there was also a terrifyingly low temperature. Young Dingtian guessed that the temperature here should be around -40 degrees Celsius. If it was anyone else, even if they were extremely powerful experts, they would need to use profound qi to protect themselves. But to Yang Dingtian, this temperature was only cold, and he did not need to use profound qi to protect himself. That's right, this was Yang Dingtian's advantage, the advantage of the 9 Yang profound veins. Then what about the assassin in this secret room? Just as Yang Dingtian thought of this, the surrounding walls suddenly changed. Pieces of icicles cracked and fell from the walls, and then a cold wind blew past. These icicles condensed together and turned into a human figure, a beautiful, sparkling and translucent iceman. "Hello, stranger. Are you here to play with me?" This female iceman's voice was very clear and pleasant to the ears. It was even the clearest voice Yang Dingtian had ever heard, just like the sound of ice shattering. "I'm really too cold. Mister, can you use your blood to warm me up?" The female iceman said in a delicate voice. Her face still had a charming smile, but her gaze suddenly turned cold. Whoosh 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 whoosh. From the female iceman's body, countless ice blades suddenly burst out. Like a butterfly, they flew wildly in the secret room, crazily cutting Yang Dingtian's entire body. The effect of such an attack was extremely beautiful, but also extremely cruel. Because if it was anyone else, they would have long been cut into a pile of meat paste. Even if it was an expert more powerful than Yang Dingtian, they were instantly cut into a pile of bones. Not even a trace of blood or flesh could be seen. These thousands of ice blades were like man-eating small demon beasts. When they passed through your body, they would directly take away a piece of flesh and blood. It was as if countless piranhas were only left with a pile of bones after passing through. This kind of small and incomparably sharp ice blade is completely unavoidable and unstoppable. In an instant, Yang Dingtian was cut hundreds of thousands of times. His entire body was immediately enveloped by the ice blades, and his figure could not be seen. Countless icicle-flying daggers cut his body madly. "Ha ha ha." The female iceman giggled and said, "Stranger, you're going to die. Thank you so much for your blood. It can bring me some warmth. Thank you, strange brother." Then, the female iceman opened her hand and immediately retracted all the ice blades. Countless ice blades flew back like butterflies and directly stuck to the female iceman's body and became a part of her body. "There will be delicious fresh blood soon." The female iceman's laughter was as sweet as before. Then, she opened her watery eyes and looked over. Immediately, her laughter came to an abrupt end, because Yang Dingtian was standing in his original position unharmed. Those countless ice blades crazily cutting did not cause any harm to him. "Impossible, how could this be?" The female iceman exclaimed, her voice changed. "Yes, how could this be?" This result was also greatly out of Yang Dingtian's expectation. He knew that his 9 Yang profound veins would have a huge advantage in the ice-type secret room, but he did not expect it to be such an overwhelming advantage. The killer here, with such a stunning attack, actually did not cause any harm to him. Since that was the case, then if he did not take this opportunity to cultivate properly, he would be too sorry. Burning Heaven Sword. A burst of profound qi was injected into the youngling's sword. Immediately, the youngling's sword turned red, but there was no flame coming out. Only the sword body turned red. With a leap, he appeared in front of the female iceman and fiercely stabbed the sword in his hand. Humph humph. The woman sneered and stood motionless in her original position. Yang Dingtian's fiery red sword suddenly pierced her chest. Crash. In an instant, the female iceman's body completely disintegrated, turning into countless ice fragments and scattered on the ground. Immediately after, a burst of cold wind blew, and these ice fragments once again condensed, turning into an intact female iceman. Chapter 169. Yang Dingtian was stunned. With another move of the burning heaven sword, he suddenly slashed towards her beautiful head. Walala! The female iceman's head directly shattered, and her entire body shattered, scattering all over the ground. A gust of wind blew, and these ice fragments condensed again, and the female iceman was as good as new again. Ha ha ha! The female iceman suddenly laughed proudly. This time, it was Yang Dingtian's turn to be puzzled. What was going on? The female iceman couldn't do anything to Yang Dingtian. So why couldn't Yang Dingtian do anything to her? Yang Dingtian didn't believe in this evil, and the sword in his hand slashed wildly. He slashed the female iceman's chest, neck, waist, and legs. After dozens of slashes, the result was the same every time. The female iceman was directly smashed to pieces, but after a cold wind blew, she was as good as new. Strange brother, it's my turn next. The female iceman said in a tender voice. Ah! Then she let out a high-pitched cry, and her entire body completely shattered, turning into countless ice and snow powder. Countless ice and snow powder suddenly scattered, like dancing ice sand, turning into a huge devil's mouth in the air, and suddenly swallowing Yang Dingtian. Burning heaven sword! Yang Dingtian roared, and channeled all his profound energy into the young sword, and instantly a flame burned fiercely. Suddenly, countless ice sand completely swallowed Yang Dingtian. Endless ice energy frantically penetrated Yang Dingtian's body. The surrounding temperature was getting lower and lower, -30 degrees, 40 degrees, 50 degrees. In the end, it was completely bone-piercing cold. It was as if the nerves, profound veins, blood, and bones were completely frozen. Yang Dingtian frantically waved the young sword in his hand in the mouth of the ice demon. Countless burning heaven sword, countless burning red young sword rushed towards the ice sand prison. But countless times, the bone-piercing cold extinguished the flames. Over and over again, countless burning heaven sword, all returned without any success. The reason for that was because that frightening ice-cold energy was completely mobile and ever-changing. These countless burning heaven swords and countless flames all required the support of profound qi. Therefore, after a short hour, Yang Dingtian's profound energy was once again on the brink of exhaustion, but he was still unable to break out of the ice sand's prison. This was because no matter where he ran to, countless ice grains would move with him, trapping him firmly in the icy demonic mouth. He had to change his strategy. Yang Dingtian ignored the crazy ice cold, and the youngling sword in his hand suddenly stabbed into the ground. Earth-sealing sword. Suddenly, boundless profound energy burst out from the youngling sword and permeated every inch of space. This special profound energy abruptly sealed all of the energy in an instant. This Xianqi was still of the fire attribute, and not of the ice attribute. However, this kind of Xianqi could be split into countless parts in an instant, and each part could trap the enemy's tiny energy. Yang Dingtian was a fire elementalist. If he was an ice elementalist, then the effect of this earth-sealing sword would be even more astonishing. In an instant, countless ice grains were temporarily imprisoned. Burning heaven sword. Yang Dingtian exhausted the last of his profound energy, and a soaring flame appeared in his hand, and he fiercely slashed at the last place of the ice sand prison. Bang! In an instant, a huge hole was smashed in the frozen ice sand prison, and the dreamland collapsed. Then, all the ice grains began to gather and quickly condensed into a female ice woman. At this time, the female ice woman was already injured, and she looked at Yang Dingtian in disbelief. The ice hell just now was already her trump card, but it was still helpless against Yang Dingtian. With a cry of alarm, she immediately wanted to escape, turning into countless ice shards and sticking to the wall. This way, there would be endless ice energy to devour, and Yang Dingtian could do nothing to her. If he let her run away, it would be difficult to make her appear again. Of course, Yang Dingtian would not allow her to escape, and the sword in his hand stabbed out like lightning. Earth-sealing sword. It was still the earth-sealing sword, and in an instant, the female ice woman's body was imprisoned. Of course, Yang Dingtian's move was only useful against pure energy bodies. It could not imprison a real enemy, because he was not an ice martial artist after all. After being imprisoned, the youngling's sword in Yang Dingtian's hand suddenly burned, and he rushed forward and slashed at her body. Burning Heaven Sword. Countless flames suddenly smashed the female ice woman into pieces. A gust of wind blew, and countless fragments began to condense again, returning to a complete female ice woman. Earth-Sealing Sword. The female ice woman who was about to escape was imprisoned. Burning Heaven Sword. The giant flame sword slashed down. Just like this, the cycle repeated. The Earth-Sealing Sword and the Burning Heaven Sword were waved in turn. The female ice woman's body was getting smaller and smaller. After the 39th sword. Burning Heaven Sword. Yang Dingtian used all his profound energy to slash down with the last sword. Walala. The female ice woman was completely turned into ashes. Yang Dingtian destroyed the third interloper of the Five Elements Palace, and his profound energy was completely exhausted. As expected, his 9 Yang profound veins had the advantage in the ice secret room. Other than the lightning element, the ice element was the most abnormal among all the interlopers in the secret room, because it was completely unkillable. Moreover, her attacks were all pervasive, and her entire body was a weapon. In the end, because of Yang Dingtian's 9 Yang profound veins, he destroyed the ice element interloper. Although he spent a lot of effort, he almost didn't encounter any danger. Dragging his tired body, Yang Dingtian returned to the center of the hall, held the youngling's sword, and once again entered the profound energy absorption. It was still an incomparably familiar feeling, and countless profound energy poured into the profound veins. This time, it took a full 12 hours for the profound energy to fill the empty chi si. It was still the familiar restlessness, the familiar expansion, bang. A white light flashed in the chi si, and the world in Yang Dingtian's body once again fell into a temporary nothingness. Half a minute later, everything gradually returned to normal. Yang Dingtian broke through again. Although he had already expected it, when it really happened, Yang Dingtian was still overjoyed. His profound energy level directly surpassed the middle and upper 9 stars, and directly broke through to 1-star Mystic Martial Master. He broke through. Yang Dingtian was so excited that the blood in his body began to boil. Ever since he left the 10,000 Snow Palace, he had always been a mystic martial warrior. Even when he learned the second stage of the pig-slaying swordsmanship, he only broke through to 5-star Mystic Martial Warrior. Now he finally broke through to Mystic Martial Master. He was still 10 levels away from his goal, Great Mystic Martial Master. The pattern of the 5 Elements Palace's secret realm was indeed correct. As long as he destroyed the interlopers, there would definitely be a huge breakthrough. Yang Dingtian destroyed 3 interlopers and advanced from 6-star Mystic Martial Warrior to 1-star Mystic Martial Master. There were still a dozen or so interlopers left. According to the current pattern, every time he destroyed an interloper, he would break through to 1 star. Then, Yang Dingtian would break through to 3-star Great Mystic Martial Master. Great Mystic Martial Master. It could be said to be the dividing line between the strong in this world. As long as he crossed the line of Great Mystic Martial Master, he could be said to be one of the strong in this world. This was because Great Mystic Martial Masters had already started to learn profound skills and could refine heart fire. After breaking through to Mystic Martial Master, Yang Dingtian continued to absorb profound energy for a few hours, filling his profound veins and energy sea once again. After his body was filled with energy, he once again arrived in front of the fire door and pushed it open. Immediately, he felt a terrifying heat and a fiery red color everywhere. The fire secret room was the same as Yang Dingtian's profound veins, so it was the most disadvantageous because there was no way to counter it. Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian took a step forward, but did not touch the ground. This was because the moment he touched the ground, the yiksha that gave him a headache would appear. That yiksha really gave him a headache, especially its flaming viper whip and its green demon fire. It was crazily destroying Yang Dingtian's profound veins and body, but Yang Dingtian was helpless against it. As long as I can kill you, I'll accept it even if I have to enter the green pool on the giant's chest again. Yang Dingtian said in his heart, then suddenly landed on the ground. With a burst of sharp laughter, the half-human, half-beast Yiksha suddenly jumped down from the wall. The flaming viper whip in its hand emitted a green demon fire, as it suddenly swept towards Yang Dingtian. Burning Heaven Sword. Yang Dingtian clenched his fist and poured in a powerful profound energy, then suddenly slashed towards the Yiksha. Boom! A flame soared into the sky. It was more than 30 meters long, and carried a fiery red sword aura, as it fiercely chopped down towards the Yiksha. Bang! A loud sound rang out, and a dazzling brilliance flashed. That Yiksha was directly split into 2 halves. The fiery red blood did not even have time to fall to the ground, before it was directly cut into 2 halves from head to toe. Then, it crashed onto the ground and burned fiercely, turning into ashes. Then, a gust of wind blew past, and the ashes on the ground completely disappeared. The first person to stop the fire element secret room, the fire Yiksha, was directly killed in an instant. Yang Dingtian was completely dumbfounded. As if he had been petrified, he stood in place without moving. It wasn't until the Yiksha was completely annihilated that he slightly woke up. He had long been prepared for a bitter battle. He even prepared to enter the green pool on the giant's chest once. Because this fire Yiksha was really difficult to deal with. He didn't expect that the result would be an instant kill. A naked instant kill. This power was too astonishing. Was it that powerful to jump ranks? A 9-star mystic martial artist and a 1-star mystic martial master were only 1 level apart. But the difference in combat strength was so great that it was several times greater. The 9-star mystic martial artist Yang Dingtian could only emit a few feet of flames. The mystic martial master Yang Dingtian directly emitted flames that were dozens of meters long. The 9-star mystic martial artist Yang Dingtian was tortured to death by this fire Yiksha. The mystic martial master Yang Dingtian directly killed this fire Yiksha in an instant. Just like that, when Yang Dingtian returned to the main hall, he still had a large amount of mystic chi in his body. Now he had to make a new choice. He had entered the metal, fire, wind, and ice rooms of the 5 elements hall. He had killed all the first-level bosses of the 4 elements. Then, should he enter the lightning-type training room? Or should he enter the second metal-type room? Lightning type. It was like a bug in this world, an extremely mysterious existence. However, it didn't have much use in battle, because it was almost impossible to meet lightning-type enemies. The most important thing was that Yang Dingtian felt that the lightning type was unnecessary. That's right, this was the feeling. Fire type and ice type could complement each other. Gold type and wind type could complement each other. If Yang Dingtian couldn't pass the fire type room, then he would go to the ice type room to practice the fire type sword techniques. Then, he would return to the fire type room, and his power would increase by leaps and bounds. It could be said that without the ice type room, Yang Dingtian wouldn't be able to pass the fire type room. Without the metal type room, Yang Dingtian wouldn't be able to pass the wind type room. Of course, the opposite was also true. However, the lightning type room was completely independent, as if it had nothing to do with the other 4 elements. Yang Dingtian thought for half an hour, and finally decided to try the most mysterious and rare lightning type room. Even if it was just to see what the killer looked like. He wanted to see how scary the lightning type room was. After making the decision, Yang Dingtian grabbed Ah Chao's youngling sword and walked to the door of the lightning type room. Different from the other doors, the lightning type door's color was constantly changing. There was no fixed color at all. Stretching out his hand, he pushed open this unpredictable door. Inside, it was pitch black, as if it was an endless starry sky. It was extremely mysterious and dangerous. At this moment, Yang Dingtian felt as if his heart was about to jump out. Because this aura was too terrifying. He clenched his teeth and stepped in. Instantly, the surroundings fell into absolute darkness. Absolute darkness. Suddenly, the surrounding time and space concept all disappeared and stagnated. Yang Dingtian clenched the youngling sword in his hand. He wanted to fight, but found that there was no opponent. Once he stepped into the secret room, the killer would appear. But at this moment, Yang Dingtian had already entered a dark secret room. The killer still didn't appear. Chapter 170. Pa. There was a loud sound. In the complete darkness, a white light flashed. It looked like lightning, but it also didn't look like lightning. It struck Yang Dingtian's body. Bang! Yang Dingtian was sent flying. He flew out of the secret room and flew to the entrance of the hall. His entire body was black, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. This couldn't even be considered an instant kill. This was a level higher than an instant kill. The opponent couldn't even be seen or found. A lightning strike directly ignored any defense and flew out. The three-headed giant opened his eyes again and grabbed Yang Dingtian in his hand. Trial Taker is heavily injured for the 4th time. Checking the Trial Taker's vitality. Trial Taker has no vitality. Suspected to be dead. The Guardian is preparing to destroy the Trial Taker's traces. Judging this trial to be a complete failure, the Guardian is destroying the Trial Taker's traces. Countdown. 10, 9, 8. As the countdown approached, the three-headed giant's palm became tighter and tighter. When the countdown ended, his palm would suddenly grab and Yang Dingtian's body would directly turn into ashes, completely erasing all traces. 3, 2, 1. The giant's palm suddenly tightened. Suddenly, Yang Dingtian's body twitched. The three-headed giant stopped destroying. Trial Taker's vitality is suspected to have appeared. The Guardian is checking again, confirming that the Trial Taker has vitality. Once again, put him into the sacred pool to recuperate. Then, the three-headed giant opened the stone slab in front of his chest and put Yang Dingtian into the pool again. This was the closest Yang Dingtian had come to death in the trial. This was the power of the lightning chamber. It was too amazing. A full 3 days and 3 nights. This time, Yang Dingtian stayed in the green pool for 3 days and 3 nights before waking up. It was longer than the previous times he was unconscious. Even when he woke up, he found that his body was completely charred like coal. It was too horrible to look at. This lightning chamber was not just a bug. It was completely hell. There was no chance of survival at all. After entering, he couldn't find any opponent at all. He was directly struck down by a bolt of lightning, without any defensive ability. This lightning element secret room was indeed unnecessary. Just the other 4 element secret rooms were enough for a practitioner to advance to a 3-star Great Mystic Martial Master. There was no need to cultivate in the lightning element secret room. Perverted, this was too perverted. It was simply impossible for any trial taker to pass through the lightning chamber. Unless they were naturally gifted, for example, the kind that was not afraid of electricity at all, or the kind that was charged with electricity. After waking up, Yang Dingtian recuperated in the green pool for more than 10 hours. Only then did the terrifying scars on his body gradually fade away. The terrifying charred skin gradually fell off, and his entire body was healed. At this moment, Yang Dingtian was filled with curiosity and shock towards the green pool. What exactly was the water in the green pond? It really had the effect of bringing the dead back to life. As long as one was not dead, they would be able to recover after entering the pool. Yang Dingtian immediately thought of Yin Yan. Her Xian meridians were damaged. Would they be able to recover after entering the pool? The three-headed giant said that this was sacred water. A crazy idea immediately emerged in Yang Dingtian's mind. That is, when he leaves, he will take some sacred water back to treat Yin Yan's Xian meridians. Once this idea came up, it could not be stopped. Yang Dingtian's heart immediately started beating very fast. He had never been a thief before, so with just a thought, his heart started beating wildly. However, he temporarily put this idea aside. Currently, the most important thing is to continue training in the secret room and break through to a 3-star Mystic Martial Master as soon as possible before leaving. When it is time to leave, he will steal the sacred water. Returning to the center of the hall, Yang Dingtian continued to use his Xian breathing technique to regulate his breathing. After he completely recovered his Xian qi, he took his youngling sword and walked towards the metal element secret room. As for the lightning element secret room, it was a complete nightmare. He did not even want to take a look at it. After entering the first metal element secret room, the stone golem still jumped down from the wall and swung its giant hammer towards Yang Dingtian. Its mouth was still saying the familiar words. Yang Dingtian casually swung his sword. Bang! The giant hammer in its hand was directly split apart. Whoosh! Another sword slashed down towards its head. Crash! The stone golem's body was directly shattered into pieces. Just a few days ago, the stone golem was still swaggering around, causing Yang Dingtian to be helpless, and even heavily injuring him. Now, Yang Dingtian casually swung his sword and shattered it into pieces. It can be seen how much Yang Dingtian's cultivation has increased. Of course, after destroying the stone golem, his Xian Qi will not have any breakthrough. Yang Dingtian directly went to the second door of the metal element secret room and pushed it open. In front of him is the second metal element secret room. A few days ago, Yang Dingtian was directly killed by the level 2 metal golem. He flew a few hundred meters and almost died. At that time, Yang Dingtian did not have any ability to fight back against the level 2 metal golem. Now, he had broken through several levels and even became a 1-star black martial master. So, what would happen if he fought against the metal golem? Taking a deep breath, Yang Dingtian stepped in. Suddenly he felt his body sink. The familiar feeling of 9 times gravity came again. It was as if everything had become heavy and slow. With a piercing sound, the familiar metal golem suddenly bounced out from the wall. It held a giant sword and directly slashed towards Yang Dingtian. Yang Dingtian bent his knees and held his breath. He held his sword with both hands and suddenly shouted, "Ah!" He raised the heavy sword in his hand to meet the metal golem's giant sword and slashed violently. A few days ago, Yang Dingtian was directly sent flying a few hundred meters like a straw. Blood spurted out, his muscles were torn, and his Xian meridians were split open. It was unknown whether he was alive or dead. So what about this time? Ah! There was a deafening sound. The two heavy swords collided violently and suddenly burst into dazzling sparks. This was a collision of strength against strength, Xian Qi against Xian Qi. Puff! Yang Dingtian spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated a dozen steps. After standing still, Yang Dingtian felt a surge in his chest and spat out another mouthful of blood. His arm was in severe pain and trembled uncontrollably. But that was all. He wasn't sent flying, nor was he killed instantly. Yang Dingtian's lips curled into a determined smile. As long as you don't kill me, I won't fall. I will have a chance to destroy you. After pushing Yang Dingtian back a dozen steps and spitting out blood, the metal golem flew away and rushed forward. It waved the giant sword in its hand and continued to slash at Yang Dingtian. "Come on, let's fight." Yang Dingtian roared and slashed the giant sword in his hand. Clang! Sparks burst out, and there was another deafening sound. Yang Dingtian's sword collided with the giant sword of the metal golem again. It was a naked confrontation of strength and Xian Qi. Puff! Yang Dingtian spat out another mouthful of blood and retreated a dozen steps. Yes, he only spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated a dozen steps. He had made progress compared to the first sword. The metal golem did not give Yang Dingtian any chance to breathe. It chased after him and slashed the giant sword in its hand again. This was the third sword. "Come on again." Yang Dingtian's blood seemed to be burning. He slashed at the giant sword in his hand. Clang! There was a loud sound. Yang Dingtian retreated 8 steps. A mouthful of blood rushed to his throat, but Yang Dingtian swallowed it down. He had made progress again. "Come on again." Yang Dingtian waved the giant sword in his hand and shouted at the metal golem. The metal golem sped up and slashed at him again. The 4th sword, the 5th sword, the 6th sword, the 7th sword, the 8th sword, the 9th sword. Clang! There was a loud sound. Finally, when the metal golem slashed at him for the 9th time, Yang Dingtian's body only trembled. He did not retreat at all. The dividing line was here. Yang Dingtian began to gain the upper hand. "Now it's my turn," Yang Dingtian shouted. He used all his strength, aimed at the metal golem's head and slashed at it. All-conquering sword, all-conquering. The metal golem and the giant sword collided. There was a loud sound and sparks flew. The metal golem's body trembled. "There's more!" Yang Dingtian roared and slashed down with his sword again. All-conquering. 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 3 sword, 4 sword, 5 sword, 6 sword, 7 sword, 8 sword, 9 sword. Every sword was an all-conquering sword. Yang Dingtian slashed 9 times fiercely. As for the metal golem, he blocked 9 sword strikes. After the last sword strike, he finally ran out of strength and took half a step back. All-conquering. Yang Dingtian held the sword with both hands and used the last of his celestial chi to slash at the metal golem. Clang! Sparks flew. The metal golem blocked Yang Dingtian's all-conquering sword and staggered back 2 steps. Currently, Yang Dingtian's mystic chi had been completely depleted and had been completely exhausted. When the metal golem retreated, he quickly retreated and left the second metal chamber. He returned to the center of the hall as fast as he could. Although he did not kill the level 2 metal golem, Yang Dingtian was satisfied that he had gained the upper hand. After returning to the center of the hall, Yang Dingtian found that his muscles had cracked and blood was oozing out continuously. The web between his thumb and index finger, where he held the sword, had already split open. Yang Dingtian did not enter the sacred water pool in front of the giant's chest to recuperate. Instead, he held Ah Chao's youngling sword and started to absorb celestial chi in the center of the hall. So comfortable. Yang Dingtian let out a comfortable moan when the celestial chi rushed into his body. It was still a very familiar feeling. The endless celestial chi was like water, nourishing Yang Dingtian's injured and dried up celestial meridians. The celestial chi filled his celestial meridians and flowed into his sea of chi. After a few hours, Yang Dingtian's sea of chi had expanded to its limit. However, Yang Dingtian did not want to break through because he did not defeat the metal golem. He did not expect to break through. However, he did not expect that his sea of chi would suddenly burst out a white light after it had expanded to its limit. The world of Yang Dingtian's body fell into nothingness once again. Yang Dingtian did not expect to break through at all, but he did. He did not destroy the stone golem. He only fought against it with brute force and only gained the upper hand. He did not expect that he would break through directly. Moreover, he skipped the 1-star intermediate and high-grade martial artist and directly broke through to 2-star mystic martial master. Yang Dingtian was overjoyed at this development, but he also did not understand it. However, it was a good thing to have a breakthrough. Yang Dingtian kept his surprise and continued to absorb celestial chi. After a few hours, Yang Dingtian's body was once again filled with strength and celestial chi. All his celestial meridians were filled with celestial chi, and his sea of chi was also very full. Holding Ah Chao's giant sword, Yang Dingtian returned to the second metal elemental secret room. This time he was already prepared. He pushed open the door and walked in directly. Soon, the metal golem swung its giant sword and rushed up to Yang Dingtian. It slashed down hard. Clang! Yang Dingtian met the sword head-on. His body trembled, and he felt pain in his arm. But that was all. He did not vomit blood or take half a step back. The metal golem trembled violently and took half a step back. Now it's time to get rid of you, Yang Dingtian sneered. He held the sword with both hands and slashed down hard at the metal golem. Invincible. The first sword, the metal golem took 3 steps back. The second sword, the metal golem took 5 steps back. The third sword, the metal golem took 9 steps back. The fourth sword, invincible. The metal golem took more than 10 steps back. The fifth sword, invincible. The metal golem flew out violently and fell dozens of meters away. Now is the time to destroy you. Yang Dingtian immediately rushed up like a ferocious tiger coming down from the mountain. Before the metal golem could stand up, Yang Dingtian held the sword with both hands and slashed fiercely at its body. Invincible, 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 one sword after another, he slashed crazily at the metal golem. After more than 10 swords, the metal golem's giant sword finally could not withstand it and shattered. It had lost its weapon. Yang Dingtian's heavy sword slashed its body crazily. Its entire body was made of a special metal and was very hard. Every time Yang Dingtian slashed, there would be a burst of sparks and deep wounds. 20 swords, 30 swords, 50 swords, 100 swords. At this time, the metal golem could not get up at all. Yang Dingtian stepped on it and slashed it crazily. Its originally silver body was now completely covered in wounds. It was a tragic sight. Destroy! Yang Dingtian gathered all the qi in his body and slashed down with his sword. Bang! With a loud sound, the silver metal golem's body was directly split into two by Yang Dingtian. Crash! The metal golem that was split into two shattered. A gust of wind blew past, and it immediately disappeared without a trace. Yang Dingtian used the Yin-Yang Heaven and Earth Sword to destroy the fifth secret realm assassin. It was also the first second-level assassin. At this time, the qi in Yang Dingtian's body was once again completely exhausted. Dragging his tired body and excited spirit, Yang Dingtian returned to the center of the Five Elements Great Hall. Holding Ah Chao's youngling sword, he once again began to absorb qi. Yang Dingtian loved this moment the most, because the feeling of qi entering his body was really like a person who had been thirsty for half a month and drank sweet spring water. Qi continued to flow into his qi meridians and then to his qi sea. A few hours later, his qi sea expanded to its limit. Then, with a sudden tremble, a ray of light flashed, but it did not enter nothingness. Yang Dingtian had a breakthrough, but it was not a big breakthrough. From a 2-star elementary mystic martial master, he skipped the middle level and directly became a 2-star superior mystic martial master. He was only a little bit away from becoming a 3-star mystic martial master. Although he did not directly break through to become a 3-star mystic martial master, Yang Dingtian was still very excited, because he had already grasped the rhythm of the secret realm. The following trials would become much easier. A few hours later, Yang Dingtian's qi si and qi si were completely filled with qi. His entire body was once again filled with strength. Holding Ah Chao's youngling sword, Yang Dingtian retreated from the door of the Wind Element secret room. He wanted to enter the second room of the Wind Element secret room to undergo the trial. What awaited him was a second-level Wind Element assassin. It was another new battle. Just like this, time passed second by second, minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. Yang Dingtian was completely immersed in the trial of the secret realm. At first, he still remembered the time, but very quickly, he completely forgot about the concept of time. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to go through the trial, destroy the assassin, and make himself stronger. He did not know how many times he was injured. He also did not know how many times he entered the sacred water pond. He also did not know how many times he was on the verge of death. He also did not know how many times he was badly mutilated. He also did not know how many times he was on the verge of death. He went back and forth between the central Great Hall and the various secret rooms. He also did not know how many times he broke through after absorbing qi si. How many times did he break through? He really forgot. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.